What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in DC as Bruce Wayne? The Strongest Batman. Part 8. If you enjoy this type of content, please furiously deliver thorough justice to the like button. For Gotham. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Remember to check out the original story linked in the description. Let's get into the rise of the strongest Batman in history without further ado.
行くぜ
If it's to protect our family, be it the kingdom or the entire world, we would make anyone our enemy. That's what it means to be fairy tale, Natsu Dragneel, fairy tale. Bruce Wayne POV. Sir, are you sure that you don't want to enjoy your vacation for a little longer? My crime analysis says that once you return to being Batman again, you won't be able to take a long vacation for quite a long time. Cortana asked for the third time since morning as I boarded the private jet that I had anonymously rented to go back to Gotham. Nope, I am done with my vacation. We can't afford to waste more time here. The more I laze around, the easier it will be for David Kane to stage another attack on me. Plus, my to-do list is mounting with unfinished tasks every second. I sighed while taking my seat on one of the comfy sofas in the jet. Now, where the hell are the others? I asked no one in particular as I glimpsed outside the plane through one of the windows. Apparently, Alfred and Leslie were having a meeting with some European emissaries to properly discuss how the European Union and the country of Italy can make it up to us so that Wayne Enterprises does not pull away or halt the operations of some of the important projects and businesses that we have started here, including the distribution of the Xenobots program to treat various incurable diseases. Of course, it should also be mentioned that they were not so accommodating just because of the social service I was doing or the potential business I would be giving them, but because of how the US government, under the influence of the press and the public, was treating the attack on me as an attack on America, while actively pressurizing them from behind the scenes to compensate me for their lapse in security that led to the attack. As for the girls, they actually wanted to go on one last shopping trip before heading back to Gotham, with even Talia included in that list as well. Although previously, she had no interest in fashion or shopping like the other girls. After our passionate night of shaboinking, however, she has been quite active in researching sexy costumes and kinky shaboink toys that she could use to have even more fun. She was a natural seductress and seemed to take that role quite seriously. They are finishing the final security checks in the immigration. They will be here within 15 minutes. By the way, sir, shouldn't you do something about Bialia as well, since its current supreme commander is the one responsible for issuing the bounty on you? Maybe a few economic sanctions will be enough to dissuade them. Or perhaps an assassination. No, right now the political situation in the country is too sensitive for that. Economic sanctions might weaken the dictator's power for some time, but sanctions always affect the normal public the most. It's always the poor and the middle class who truly suffer its repercussions. An assassination, on the other hand, is the preferable approach in this case, but the time isn't right. We should wait till we have more to gain from Bialia's change in leadership. And who knows, maybe I can crack a favorable deal with the previous king in exchange for my help and the cure to his condition. In fact, Cortana, do keep an eye out for anyone from Bialia arriving in America, especially its diplomats and emissaries. I have a feeling that they might come in search of me to either ask for my help or to stop me from providing my help to the previous king. He ordered thoughtfully. Will do, sir. Cortana dutifully replied. Anyway, now that I am finally returning to Gotham, I should start taking care of some of the villains who seem to have started their criminal careers already, especially the psychopathic ones who don't even seem to value human life. Sir, I think there is something you should know. It can just be a false alarm, but if it isn't, then there is a chance that your family is in danger. Cortana's voice chimed out as her hologram suddenly appeared over my bracelet with a serious face. My family? You mean Alfred and the girls? I asked anxiously. No, I mean the family that you always try to avoid, your blood relatives from the Kane family. Under the Guardian Angel initiative, I have been using an algorithm to keep an eye on everyone related to you to ensure their safety against any unforeseen danger. Although the surveillance isn't constant or deep enough to invade their personal space, the algorithm does pick up certain keywords and actions to determine if anything abnormal is happening around them or if they are in any sort of mortal danger. That algorithm has just picked up abnormal movement and communication around the area where the Kane family is presently staying in Brussels, Belgium. Your uncle, Jacob Kane, is currently occupied at his job, working on some secret project for NATO while his wife, Gabby, and her 2 daughters are alone at home, possibly preparing to leave their house to go somewhere. Their home seems decently secured, and they even have some trained security personnel with them, but none of that defense is impregnable in case of an invasion by a well-trained or well-prepared terrorist organization. She informed in a serious tone while showing a hologram of the blueprint of the house they were in, as well as the cars that seemed to be parked near it. Is it Davin Kane or perhaps the Court of Owls? I asked with a serious voice. No, sir. It doesn't match Kane's MO, and it doesn't seem to be a single person. Also, this looks like a normal terrorist organization. Even if the court is involved, at least they are not directly responsible for this. However, now that I am scanning everyone in the area through the few still functional CCTV cameras and the overhead satellites, it seems that whatever organization is monitoring them, they aren't lacking resources or manpower. Although I don't have a clear view, I can count about 40 men armed to the teeth with guns, ammunition, and explosives. Of course, there might be even more. Even the entire local police force will have trouble dealing with them if they attack head-on, much less the 6 security personnel accompanying the mother and the daughters. She answered while showing a somewhat blurry scan of the neighborhood, showing the possible enemies as red-colored dots. Contact my aunt and tell her not to get out of the house. If my aunt doesn't pick up the phone, contact the 6 security officials present there. I am sure one of them will at least take this seriously. You can use my name to coerce them to listen to you. Also, call my uncle. I'll speak to him personally to make sure he understands the gravity of the situation. As far as I remember, he has some deep military contacts, so he should be able to easily get some soldiers there. I commanded. Aye, aye, sir. However, there is a high chance that the soldiers won't make it there in time. Should I send some drones as well? The ones from Gotham will take multiple hours to be there, but the few drones that are still here can arrive in an hour or 2. No need. I'll go there myself. After all, my suit is much faster than any of the drones. I responded before standing up to exit the jet. That is right, sir. Although the suit still doesn't have faster-than-light capabilities or even the capacity for deep space travel, it can still travel faster than sound. At its highest, you can travel at the speed of 5 Mach. Considering the distance of your uncle's house in Brussels from here, it will take approximately 11.34 minutes to reach the location. She briefed. I was quite pleased to know that I could reach the location before something serious happened to my aunt and her daughters. Even though I was never really close to them, there was still no way I was letting a mother and her children die on my watch, especially if I was aware of the threat to their lives in advance, and there was a significant chance that this particular threat on their lives existed because of me. I might not be a saint, but I was definitely a good person. Well, at least I always try to be one. In my own way. As I stepped out of the jet, ready to activate the nanobots in my bloodstream to form the armor on me, I noticed Alfred and Leslie coming in my direction. Master Bruce, are you going somewhere? Alfred asked in a slightly concerned tone. Despite trying to sound normal, for some reason, Alfred seemed a little troubled. Even his figure looked like he had aged several years in the past few days, although it should not have been possible because of the serum I had injected into him a few years ago. It should keep him good-looking and at his peak till he is at least 100 years of age. So, this change in appearance must be because he is worried about something. I should ask him about it after I come back. Unfortunately, yes, Alfred. I don't have time to explain, but the Kane family is in danger, and they need my help. So, I'll have to leave right now for that. When the girls arrive, take the jet straight to Gotham. Talia or Nissa can fly the plane for you. All of your lives might be in danger as well, and the Wayne Mansion should be the safest place for all of you right now. I quickly answered before taking a glance at Miss Thompson. I did not have enough time to explain everything to her, so I just hoped that Alfred was charming enough to do the job for me without complicating things further. Not having the time to explain more, I just pressed on the top of my bracelet to activate the nanobots. Immediately, countless liquid droplets began to pour out of my skin like sweat before spreading all over my body in the shape of armor. Within just a few seconds, the nanobots took the complete form of the bat armor over me. As soon as I had finished adorning the suit, Leslie gasped before exclaiming, "Is that armor, Bruce? Wait, are you?" However, before she could complete her words, I launched into the air with the help of the thrusters under my feet. I was in a hurry, and right now, reaching Brussels was the top priority. A few days ago, I had already explained my dual identities to Alfred, and quite surprisingly, he took it quite well. I guess his knowing that the child he had raised for so many years was not an ordinary human because of the serums and the OP gadgets and armors made from his genius didn't make him too worried about me getting hurt. In fact, he even appeared quite chill, like he had expected it all along. All he did after finding out about my secret identity was just make me promise that I would always be careful in my heroic activities and that I should never make this a habit or grow overconfident. In his own words, he wanted me to experience a normal life as well while having some fun. Leslie too knew that I wasn't exactly normal, since she had witnessed my superintelligence before. I think she suspected that I was a cruel businessman unlike my father, and even employed assassins and mercenaries for my benefit, although she turned a blind eye to it. However, she had no clue that I was the same Dark Knight who was slowly becoming the nightmare of every criminal in Gotham. But today, she had found out for better or worse, and it remains to be seen if she could handle that information well. I really did hope for her sake that Alfred could calm her down and make her understand that I wasn't a psycho or a criminal for doing what I did. After all, I would hate to use the neuralizer on her since she was Alfred's girlfriend and all. Location of target destination locked. Initiating sonic shotgun mode, Cortana declared after I had ascended to a considerable height in the sky. The portion of the armor around my heels instantly began to bulk up as nanobots from all over my body flowed to that area. Once the armor around both of my feet had almost quadrupled in size, the thrusters began to whiz with energy. Boom! A sonic boom escaped the thrusters, instantly launching me in the direction of Belgium with an incredible force, faster than even the speed of sound. Omniscient POV. I don't even have a single bar in my phone network. Is there some sort of fault in the towers or something? None of the phones have been working since morning. Gabby Kane curiously asked one of her guards before putting down her useless phone with a frustrated sigh. She was just getting ready to leave the house with her 2 daughters to take them to the park, however, just when she was about to tell the driver to get the car out of the garage, she could not help but get a strange feeling in her heart like something bad was going to happen to them, making her want to call her husband. But unfortunately for her, her phone's network was still not working. One of the soldiers assigned as security personnel for her and her family was standing near her at the main entrance and could not help but frown at her words. With a concerned look on his face, he decided to voice out his own concerns. "Ma'am, I think we shouldn't go out today. Most of our phones and communication devices have also been down since the morning for some reason, which is quite suspicious since they are designed for military use and are designed to work in any situation or condition unless there is some sort of signal scrambler involved. Additionally, the most concerning part is that one of the wireless radios we normally use for contacting headquarters in emergencies also stopped working while we were in the midst of receiving a weird message. There was a lot of static in the message, but it sounded like a female voice on the other end trying to tell us not to go out of the house and barricade ourselves in. Now, it could have easily been a prank from some genius nerd sitting in front of his computer, trying to draw attention to himself to prove how amazing and special he is. Or it could have been a cross-connection since this happens a lot with these old pieces of tech, but we can't just ignore the chances of there being real danger. So, it will be best if you stay in today until we can re-establish connection with HQ and confirm that there is nothing wrong," he advised. "Really? That is concerning. Fine, we will stay in. I'll just tell Beth and Kate that I will take them to the park this Sunday when their father comes home. They should not be too upset with all the cakes and gifts they got today. But if something does happen, you and your men can protect us, right, Mr. Finish?" Gabby asked with some concern in her voice as she took a glance at the other 5 men in suits, standing in their respective positions in front of the house. The security official named Johnny Finish displayed a charming smile at her question as he adjusted his belt to make himself seem cooler, not letting the chance of impressing a woman go before replying, "We are the best at what we do, and we are here for your protection, ma'am. We will give our lives to protect you and your daughters. You don't have to worry about anything. As for any possible threat to your life, just know that as long as we are here for you, this house is the safest place on Earth." Boom! A deafening blast compelled them to duck beneath the explosion's intense heat and power, as part of the front of the house was blown away into pieces, creating a gaping hole in the building that revealed the interior to the numerous vehicles parked outside. "Shit. James, Rick, and Jack, secure the hole and the entrance after sending an emergency alert to HQ. Let's hope the signal goes through and they can send backup as quickly as possible." Johnny quickly yelled, even though he knew that the chances of any sort of signal going through were minimal at best. He had now become sure that the enemy was using some sort of advanced signal jammer to block all types of communication to isolate them. "Use your heavy weapons. Shoot to kill and don't hold back. Barney, Take Mrs. Kane, grab the children from their room, and seal yourselves in the panic room. I will come and get you from there once this is over. Don't come out from there, no matter what happens, that's an order. He instructed in a stern tone. Oh, and if anybody sees Kramer, shoot that son of a bitch. He was supposed to be the one monitoring the CCTV cameras around the estate. He growled angrily. We's a missile launched by a terrorist from a handheld missile launcher on the back of a jeep soared toward the main gate, obliterating a significant section of the wall, and cutting off any path of escape for them with another boom sound. Let's go, ma'am. We have to go now. The man named Barney quickly got up, acknowledging his superior's command, and grabbed Gabby by the shoulders, bringing her out of her shock before almost dragging her to her daughter's room upstairs. Now, what the hell are you all waiting for? Shoot back at those bastards. And remember, boys, make them count. Johnny quickly, swiftly, before taking out an Uzi from the holster at his back and shot at the people outside. He already knew that there was a high chance that he would not survive past today, considering the vast numbers of the enemy forces and their lethal weaponry, but he was not going to just surrender. Even if he would die, he would make sure to take as many of those bastards with him as possible. After all, this wasn't just about protecting a target or asset, but protecting two innocent children and their mother. It seems those men in suits are fighting back, Commander. Should I use more missiles to take them out? A young man wearing a dark green bodysuit complete with its own matching helmet asked the senior man standing behind him on the back of a jeep. Although the senior commander looked like he was in his late 40s with graying hair, there was still a cruel fire noticeable in his gaze, a fire which made it apparent that he was relishing what was happening or what was going to happen there next. No, the house will not be able to endure more missiles and might even crumble on the residents, crushing all of them at once. We need the family to be alive. Well, at least one of them alive to get what we need. But the other two can be used as good temporary entertainment for our soldiers, and I am pretty sure they would appreciate it if their bodies were intact at the beginning for that. As for these pesky agents, let our men do some work. They have been lazing around for way too long. They need exercise. Ha 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 ha. He released an evil laugh before signaling his men forward. Sigh, this could have been so much simpler if they had just decided to head out somewhere like they were initially planning to. It would have been a simple grab and transport job. Even our intel told us that they were going to go to the park to celebrate a birthday or something. But no, they had to be overcautious. An entire week of planning and research was ruined just like that. But again, I guess that was partly our fault too, since we overused the signal jammer in our bid to be too careful, making our presence a little too obvious. However, now the entire block will be collateral in this mission. What a drag. The earlier man who had initially asked the question to the commander muttered to himself in annoyance before putting down the missile launcher in his hands, grabbing an assault rifle, and advancing toward the broken section of the house. Tat 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 for the next few minutes. Continuous bullets began to whiz through the air from both sides as the two parties tried their best to kill each other. Keep them at bay. Don't let them spread out. Johnny barked, reloading his rifle with practiced speed. The others responded with a volley of shots, taking down several attackers. But for every terrorist that fell, it seemed like two more took their place. One of the soldiers, a young man named Rick, grimaced as a bullet grazed his arm. But instead of stopping, he quickly switched to his sidearm, firing rapidly to cover his other wounded teammates. No use, sir, there are too many. And they are very well trained. He shouted over the din of battle with clenched teeth. We just need a few more minutes. Johnny replied, his voice strained. Barney is taking those three and racing towards the panic room as we speak. We just need to bang make sure that they reach there before these pieces of human shit enter the house. Kakakaka. Suddenly shots from a machine gun interrupted their conversation, forcing the soldiers to retreat further into the house to save themselves from the tireless onslaught of the bullets. Their ammo running low, they resorted to desperate measures, throwing furniture to block entry points while taking out their sidearms and daggers to mount what was going to be their final struggle against the terrorists. It was a pleasure serving with you boys. Johnny nodded with a determined face at the other four, ignoring the fact that he had 3 bloody bullet holes in his leg with blood gushing out from them like a fountain. No, it was ours, sir, James responded as he reloaded his handgun with his last magazine. After a brief moment of silence, the four nodded at each other before turning their gaze towards the opening in the wall, their minds ready to embrace their fate whatever it was. Are you all right, sweetie? You two are okay, right? Don't worry, nobody will hurt you. Mom will make sure of it. Mommy is here now. Gabby Kane hugged both of her daughters who were shaking in fear of all the booming sounds on their beds. She was caressing their heads to reassure them that they were safe in her embrace. "Ma'am, we need to enter the panic room now." The agent called Barney reminded her with some worry in his voice as he opened one of the wardrobes present in the girls' room before removing everything in the wardrobe, even the fake sliding wall at the back that was hiding the entrance to the safe room. "Yes, you are right. Let's go, girls. We will be safe in the room Daddy built for us." The Kane matriarch tried to pull the girls to get them up from the bed, but she could not even complete her words as another man appeared at the door of the room with 2 handguns pointed in 2 different directions. One of the guns pointed at Gabby and the children, while the barrel of his other gun was trained at Barney's head. "Sorry, but that won't be possible any longer, Miss Kane. I am afraid that you and your daughters will have to come with me. As for you, Barney, put down the gun like a good boy or you won't like what is going to happen next." The newly arrived person threatened with an evil smile. "Kramer? But why? You were supposed to watch the CCTV and warn us of any incoming danger. But instead, you betray us like this. Why? We treated you like a brother. Why would you do this? Isn't there always just one true reason for every betrayal? Money, man. Serving the government and fighting for your country sounds good and all, but it doesn't pay very well, does it? Yet just one act of betrayal and some very wealthy people are ready to give you millions for it. How can any self-respecting man say no? Nothing personal though. Now, put down that gun or I'll blow one of the kids' brains out," he ordered with his finger, a moment away from squeezing the trigger. Omniscient POV. "Hey guys, can you hear that sound? What is that? Sounds like a jet. And it's getting closer." One of the guys who had just thrown a grenade toward the house they were attacking muttered to the person beside him. "Wait, don't tell me that the military has deployed their jets against us." He panicked, looking around in alarm to try and search for a place to hide in case his fear came true and military jets decided to rain hell on them. "The hell are you talking about, coward? Do you, stupid motherschmucker, really think that the military has a budget big enough to send jets to eliminate a small group like ours, and that too within just a few moments of our attack? God, I can't deal with these stupid temp workers." The person who seemed to be the leader and was giving the orders earlier spewed out in anger. There was a clear irritation in his voice as he yelled with contempt at his subordinates. "Look above. Do you see any jet approaching us? The sky is as clear as your empty brain. Now hurry the hell up and bring me those women, so that all of us can go home," he shouted out. The moment he was done shouting, several of the terrorists who were standing close to him and listening in to his words agreed with his words and subconsciously looked up on their own. However, contrary to what they just heard and what they were expecting themselves, a projectile rapidly flying in their direction was clearly visible in the sky. They didn't know what it was since it seemed too small to be a jet, but what they did know was that it was flying faster than anything else they had ever seen, as evident by the clear white trail left in its path. "What is that?" The leader murmured to himself, but unfortunately for him, by the time he would be able to come to a conclusion about what it truly was, it would be too late. Swoosh swoosh, 2 smaller projectiles were suddenly released by the bigger flying silhouette, and before anybody could even realize what was going to happen next, the 2 smaller projectiles came flying at the speed of sound, striking 2 of their jeeps in the back, which contained their extra explosives stored as backup in case of an emergency, exploding in a violent explosion that directly wiped out more than half a dozen of their men with a resounding kaboom. The explosion forced all the terrorists to stop firing at the estate and instead crouch down to save themselves from the effects of the explosion. "What is that? Shoot that down. It must be some kind of cutting-edge drone technology that the military has decided to use against us," the leader once again yelled with pure malice in his voice as he tried to take a peek at the object flying towards them again. But quite astonishingly, it was no longer there. Instead, there was the sudden sound of a resounding thud behind him, like something heavy landing on a concrete floor that made almost every single hair in his body stand up with some unknown fear. "I don't usually do this during the daytime, but I suppose desperate times call for desperate measures," said a rough voice, almost demonic in tone, emanating from the figure behind him. The terrorist leader was extremely startled. He quickly spun around in alarm, only to find a tall, imposing figure clad in dark, monstrous, bat-like metal armor. "Abomination. It's a monster. The military sent a monster to hunt us down. Kill it now," he yelled in terror like an idiot, trying his best to get away from the figure in front of him, but only faltering in his steps and falling down on the ground due to his panic. Zap zap, 2 trails of scarlet-red energy left from the glowing palms of Batman's right hand, hitting the only 2 terrorists with rocket launchers in their hands. immediately knocking them out with a nasty burn on their skin despite the bulletproof armor they were wearing on their bodies. Rat-tat-tat, several of the men suddenly got their senses back the moment they witnessed the death of two of their comrades and began to fire their rifles at the Dark Knight in response. However, no matter how much they fired, not a single bullet seemed to be able to pierce through his armor. These men mostly used to live in the poor and undeveloped parts of Europe and Asia before they were recruited into the organization and had never bothered to concern themselves with supers or metahumans. They only have had training to kill ordinary human civilians or normal human soldiers, of which Batman was neither. These terrorists had absolutely no idea whom they were opposing. Batman still hadn't become world famous yet and was mostly regarded as an urban legend by the normal people in Gotham. Even the news channels that talked about the Dark Knight could never give definitive proof of his existence except for a few testaments by some witnesses claiming to have seen him protect the city. Thus, it was unimaginable for these individuals to have ever conceived the true nature of what they were confronting, even in their most extravagant dreams. Bruce, after taking out the jeeps with the most explosives, and the people with the rocket launchers, focused his attention back on the leader. He might not be feeling even the least bit of threat from these terrorists, but that didn't mean he forgot his years of training as a ninja. Defeating the enemy forces in the most efficient manner possible was what he was trained to do, and what better way to weaken a group than to eliminate its leader? Whistling birds, Bruce muttered before a small section of his armor near the shoulder opened up as the nanobots parted and 12 small micromissiles, the size of small bullets, flew through the air, striking 6 of the terrorists with a whistling sound, immediately killing them with small explosions near their vital organs. Sorcery. The leader tried to flee before taking out his handgun and shooting Bruce in the head, but the young billionaire didn't even flinch under his helmet before taking a few steps toward the man, grabbing the barrel of the gun and crushing it as easily as crushing a twig. He then slapped the man with the back of his hand, dislocating his jaw with one single hit and resulting in the man losing consciousness due to the extreme pain that followed. Most of the men around them had already opened fire on Bruce by this point to try and save their leader as well as themselves from the monster. One of them, who was holding a flamethrower, had even started using literal fire on him, trying to burn him into a crisp before Bruce could try anything else. However, Bruce just remained standing there without even a single twitch in his expression, while using the nanobots around the back of his armor to slowly form 4 extra appendages that began to look a lot like tentacles with pincers at their ends that could rotate 360 degrees. I am almost ashamed for ripping Dr. Octopus look despite being Batman. Almost heh. A bat isn't supposed to have tentacles, but I always wanted to try this. He thought in his mind as one of his tentacles circled around the man, shooting fire at him before crushing both his gun and his arms. But he didn't just stop at that. His mechanical tentacles continued to manhandle the terrorists standing close to him, while he used his repulsors to fire at the ones trying to escape or those who were trying their luck attacking him from the distance. Bruce wasn't in the mood to show any pity to anyone, no matter who they were, and although he wasn't straight out killing these terrorists, he was still determined to give them extreme amounts of pain and terrible scars so that they would never forget this encounter with him. Freaking hell. Run. As the majority of the terrorists succumbed to Bruce's powers, a choice few who had already realized that they had no way of winning against him decided to do their best to escape. In their minds, being able to escape from him with some valuable information about the existence of a monster like him was much better for both them and their organization than dying here for no reason at all. However, the Dark Knight had no intent to let anyone escape. After he was done taking care of all the criminals near him with the help of his tentacles and repulsors, he turned his attention to the people trying to board a heavily armored jeep parked right outside the estate, one of the only few vehicles that still wasn't destroyed in the carnage caused by him. Raising his right arm, the nanobots on his wrist transformed into a single anti-tank missile aimed at the direction of the car. Target locked, Cortana's voice informed Bruce before he fired the missile. The high-speed projectile flew toward the jeep and attached itself to it like a metal claw. Then a small beeping sound was heard before it became more and more intense, finally exploding the vehicle into countless pieces of red-hot metal and burnt flesh with a kaboom sound, killing everyone inside the vehicle without exception. Well, seems I am done here. Cortana, scan the surroundings to see if I missed any terrorists or if any got inside the house, Bruce asked while staring at the half-destroyed home. Positive, sir. Although the 6 armed guards are still alive, one of them seems to be holding your aunt and her daughters at gunpoint, likely a mole or a traitor in the group. He seems to be the last active threat here. She informed me after switching the HUD's camera to X-ray vision. That reminds me, you still haven't tested the wall-piercing ammunition rounds in the field before. Don't you think this is a good time for it, sir? Excellent suggestion, Cortana. That's why you are my favorite AI ever. I grinned inside my mask while ignoring her mutterings about her being the only AI I knew. I just hope that my aunt and cousins aren't too scared of blood, and this doesn't traumatize them. I hoped aloud. Oh, it definitely will, Cortana responded with a flat voice. Omniscient POV, I told you to kneel down, didn't I? And don't even think of trying something funny, Barney. You have a wife and children to take care of, right? They won't like it if you return home in a body bag for this Christmas, will they? As for you, Miss Kane, grab the children and follow me. I promise you that as long as you behave, I will personally make sure that nobody hurts your girls, the guy named Kramer threatened while continuing to aim both of his guns at Barney, his previous colleague, and the Kane family matriarch. Kramer, whatever rewards they offered you in exchange for their loyalty, it won't go the same way as you are hoping. If this terrorist organization is the same one that has been trying to stage attacks on different parts of the continent, then I should remind you that they don't leave witnesses. They will get rid of you when they think they have no more use for you. However, if you stop this and help us, we can still make things right. Barney tried to de-escalate the situation while raising his hands and slowly kneeled down to show that he didn't mean any harm. I know you, Kramer. You are a good person, not a terrorist. You played with my daughters and looked after them whenever they needed you. Why would you do this now? Mrs. Kane also tried to appeal to Kramer's humanity, hiding her daughters tighter behind her as if trying to shield them with her body. Her tear-stricken face trembled as she struggled to control her fear. Yet, despite what an onlooker might assume, the terror she was feeling right now wasn't for herself, but for the lives of the two little girls hiding behind her. A good person? Ha ha ha, you two are forgetting that I am not some gullible child that you can manipulate with some sweet, honeyed words. I have killed before, and I won't hesitate to kill again. The only reason I haven't killed you, Barney, is because I need someone to stay alive to tell Mr. Kane what happened here. As for Mrs. Kane and her children, my orders were to bring her alive. Although I might have to defy that order if you two continue to waste my time. You have no idea how much of my precious time and brain cells I had to sacrifice to get close to all of you, just so that I could complete the mission and get my money. 3 damn years. That was the time I was undercover for. However, the reward that I'll be getting from this mission will be enough to set me up for life. I'll never again have to entertain little freaking children anymore. Kramer spat with venom before pointing one of his guns directly at Mrs. Kane's head while internally worrying about the sudden silence outside. He knew that the 4 soldiers downstairs would not be enough to handle the huge number of troops that he had brought. And since he had made sure to block all modes of communication and jam all incoming signals, no help would be arriving anytime soon. It was only because of his help and prior knowledge of all the emergency protocols that they could invade the home of the Kane family and complete this mission so easily despite the security measures provided by the government. After all, he had been the one to disable all the cameras and the scanners around the estate, as well as the one responsible for unlocking the outer gates. However, he still could not help but get worried by the sudden silence outside. If those people were already done killing his previous colleagues, then he needed to hurry up. He did not want to annoy one of the leaders for no reason. Now, didn't you hear my words the first time? Hurry up and come here, you bitch, or I am going to shoot a hole in one of your little girls' heads. Bang splat. The traitorous soldier could not complete his words as his head suddenly burst out like a watermelon into a mixture of blood, flesh and broken pieces of his skull, painting the walls near him with a crimson-red color. What the hell? The agent named Barney exclaimed in shock as he looked at his own suit and his mistress's lavender dress, both of which were completely drenched with a splatter of fresh scarlet blood. Bruce Wayne POV, shit, you were right, Cortana. That bullet was indeed too strong for human skulls. Even 12 inches of bricks and cement was unable to slow it down a lot, while the detonation was just too over the top. I guess we should only keep those self-detonating extra-large bullets for armored supervillains, only or maybe for superhumans possessing super durability. As for the next time we try to assassinate someone from outside their house, we should only use normal sniper ammunition. I nodded, agreeing with Cortana's previous warning. Now you agree with me, after you have already given them serious traumas for the rest of their lives? Sigh, after what happened to that man in front of those little girls' eyes, it won't be a big surprise if they get major cases of PTSD or perhaps hemophobia. Cortana reprimanded me. I didn't retort at her words because I knew that she was right. In fact, I knew that something like this was going to happen even before I took that shot, but the thing is, I really wanted to fire a self-detonating bullet in someone's head at least once in my life, and he seemed like the perfect test subject. Releasing a hum of agreement with Cortana to shut her up, I retrieved a small crown-like device from my buckle. It was a miniaturized version of the AMU sphere, capable of scanning memories and neutralizing psychic or psionic powers in its targets. It was a very handy little gadget to gather information or imprison telepaths. With the crown in hand, I began searching for the leader of the dead terrorist troops. I suspected that the one who had initially tried to flee in fear before attempting to shoot me in the head with a revolver was their leader in this attack. If so, he would likely have the most information about the terrorist organization behind this attack, information that would be extremely useful for catching them and eliminating them from existence. After a few moments of looking through the dead bodies, I quickly found the person I was looking for as I placed the crown on his head. Even though the guy's jaw was cracked in half with a gaping hole in his chest and major burns all over his body, fortunately, his brain was almost in untouched condition. So, a few seconds was all it took for the tool to get a complete scan of his memories with the light turning green indicating that it was successful. What the hell happened here? And who are you? As soon as I had put the crown back into my buckle again, a male voice asked from behind me as a couple of figures in black suits limped towards me with pained faces. Most of you are injured and are bleeding. Sit down and take some rest, agents. Help is on the way. You have all succeeded in your mission. Mr. Kane will be here with backup in a few minutes. I responded without bothering to answer his question before using my thrusters to fly up to the windows of the second floor. Of course, they tried to stop me with a flurry of other questions, but I wasn't really in the mood to answer all of them. It seemed the two young Kane heiresses had already noticed me fighting the terrorists through the glass windows, as they quickly opened one when they saw me approaching. "Wait, Beth. Don't open the window," her mother tried to warn her. But Beth ignored her, as she and her twin sister stared at me with eyes filled with wonder. Even the other agent in the room had frozen for a split moment after seeing my flying figure appear near the window. But he was trained and experienced enough to snap out of his surprise and quickly pick up the revolver in front of him to aim it at my head. Kids are really too easy to impress. Show them a jetpack and they will worship the ground you walk on. I mentally snickered. Who are you? The agents asked in a serious voice, which I again ignored as I just stared at my aunt, my expression unreadable because of my mask. Tell your husband to either increase the security around here or bring you all back to America. I won't be able to come and save you every time the terrorists attack. I simply said before turning around to fly away. Oh, and next time hire guys from a professional security agency like Wayne Security instead of relying on the military, I advised with a straight face. I mean honestly, if they were to hire my guys, it would be a lot easier to protect them since the men in my colony now not only possess unique abilities of their own, but are also much better trained than common soldiers. However, I doubt Jacob Kane will ever agree to that since he is after all part of the military himself and thus would always prefer hiring soldiers. However, I still advised my aunt so that she would at least consider it. And who knows, maybe she can even convince her husband later to actually do it once her nephew Bruce Wayne makes the same suggestion. After all, my uncle was a very important part of the US military, with his influence only growing with time. If I could somehow convince him that Wayne Security was good enough, it could open a whole lot of government security contracts for my company, which in turn would enable me to establish a closer relationship with the government. But who are you? Just as I was about to fly away, the other twin, Kate Kane, asked in a curious voice, staring at me with her big eyes full of admiration. Those two probably saw me killing the terrorists through the window, unlike the agents and my aunt who were too busy worrying for their lives. I mentally concluded. I am Batman. Bruce Wayne POV. Shit, why are bloodstains so hard to get off from my armor? I thought it would be much easier to clean my armor than my normal clothes. Gosh, Alfred has my absolute respect for making his job look so easy. Even with the smart tuxedo I gave him, cleaning my clothes and armor should still be a hard job, especially since he insists on doing it himself instead of taking the help of other maids in the manor or using my cleaning droids to make everything look spotless and shining clean. I swear, he is almost as paranoid about cleaning things and keeping them proper as the OG Batman was about not trusting anyone. I mumbled to myself with an audible sigh before putting down the soapy sponge I was using to get the red stains off my armor. Yep, this is the last time I clean my armor myself. Next time, I'll just let Alfred do his job, or use cleaning droids like a proper scientist should. It turns out that despite being made entirely of nanobots, my armor can get dirty, especially with dried bloodstains. The reason it never happens with my own blood despite the nanobots being stored inside my body is that when inside me, they are stored as individual clusters of nanobots that are roughly the size of dust particles and thus do not get stuck with my blood cells, but when they come together and solidify as a weapon or armor, they they can get stained by liquids just like any other ordinary solid material. Maybe I should layer the nanobots with some anti-stain coating next time to increase its stain resistance. Or maybe a self-cleaning feature that can instantly get rid of stains, dust, grime, or any other stuff that could defile it. After all, I really don't want even the tiniest amount of dirt getting inside my body when I store some of the nanobots inside my body. I mentally decided. Of course, I only have to worry about this stuff till I perfect nanotechnology and evolve my nanobots into nanites. Once I can make self-replicating nanites at the molecular scale, then none of these concerns will be a bother anymore. With nanites like that, I would be OP as hell. I mean, nanites of that level can do almost anything, including genetic engineering on the go, controlling almost every type of technology in existence, and even affecting the weather to some extent. Honestly, once those nanites are perfected, I would be as strong as Cheon Yeowoon from the manhwa Nanomasine. If Cheon Yeowoon were on steroids, that is. However, all of those dreams were far off since I still needed a few years to perfect the technology to reach those standards of magical reality-altering efficiency. I thought with a sigh. Just when I was daydreaming about my inevitable power-up one day, Alfred walked in through the elevator into the main cave where I was trying to wash and clean my armor, followed by Slade in his complete Deathstroke armor. Master Wayne, while I admire your initiative of trying to lessen my burden, however, using fabric softener on your bat armor is about as effective as using a grappling hook to catch a cold. Next time, might I suggest a specialized detergent? Or better yet, just leaving the cleaning to someone less inclined to fight crime in their spare time. The butler sarcastically said with a small smile on his face as he took a look at the armor, which was still nowhere as clean as when he cleaned it. Alfred, I think you misunderstood our ladies' man here. He is not trying to make your job easy, but practicing for what his little harem of girlfriends is going to force him to do for them very soon. After all, since he has started painting himself as the most perfect man on earth, he might as well just go the extra mile and become the most lovable house husband in the future. Slade mockingly added with a snicker. Ha. 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 Laugh all you want. But your laughs and giggles won't change the fact that I have multiple capable and extremely beautiful girls ready to share me as their sole lover, while one of you is on the verge of getting divorced and the other is still busy trying to impress one woman. I smirked with genuine pride on my face as I dismissively threw the sponge behind me. Anyway, how come you two are here at the same time? Is it your men's night out or something? Because if it is, then I ain't going back to that fishing lake again. You two have zero skills in fishing, and we all had to come back empty-handed last time. We were lucky that I was smart enough to buy a fish from Fresh Mart. Otherwise, the girls would have laughed their asses off at us. I shook my head as I remembered the unfortunate events that happened the last time we went on a men's night out. Okay, first, that was a low blow. I am not getting divorced. My marriage is currently in a rough patch, but we can recover from that. It's just that my mental health might not always be the best at times, especially during times of high stress. That's why I have been having more and more arguments with my wife. That's actually something I needed to talk to you about, Slade said after a few seconds of hesitation before pointing his fingers at Alfred. But we will talk about that later. Alfred has something to tell you for now. Mine is a lot less important than that, he said before signaling Alfred to start. Young master, I want to confess that I have been concealing something from you these past few days. In truth, I originally considered this as a personal matter that I endeavored to resolve on my own, but it appears I am not as capable as I once was. In fact, I am rather ashamed to admit that. I even attempted to take advantage of my position here by utilizing the influence of the Wayne family to resolve the problem. Yet despite all that, I have still failed to address the situation, he admitted with a melancholic tone, prompting me to raise an eyebrow in his direction, gesturing him to continue. Do you recall how I always mentioned I was alone, without any family? Well, it appears I was mistaken. I do indeed have someone, a blood relative, in fact. You see, when I was a young lad, a little older than you, I was neither as careful nor as responsible as you are. I made numerous mistakes at that age, including getting someone pregnant, Alfred said, a small cough escaping him, a slight blush visible on his embarrassed face. I never knew it until recently, but it seems the woman gave birth to a child, my daughter. Wait, you have shadow-inked before? Wow, I think I once had a nightmare about this. I mean, I am sorry, but I always thought that you were a pure man before you met Miss Tompkins. I could not help but exclaim in pure confusion. That was my first thought as well. I also initially believed that he was either gay or a virgin. Slade commented from the side, which both me and Alfred did our best to ignore. I'm not quite sure why either of you would think that, but I've had my fair share of adventures in my time. Well, truthfully, they could be called misadventures since they are now coming back to haunt me, Alfred replied with a tired exhale. Anyway, all jokes aside, I am quite disappointed in you, Alfred. I don't know if you know this, but I always considered you family even before my parents died. I always looked up to you. In fact, you are the person I trust the most in this world. I don't think I had this much trust in even my parents. But it seems that you never had that same level of trust in me, did you? You considered having a daughter as your private business, huh? So was I always just a job to you, a professional responsibility that you had to complete because you promised my parents? Did you ever consider me your family, like I did? I asked, lacing my words with some classic emotional blackmailing to make sure that he never did this again. Honestly speaking, I really was somewhat hurt at Alfred's attempt to keep such a big secret from me. I was not lying when I said that Alfred was the person I trusted the most in my new life. I might be a paranoid little bastard, but Alfred was someone I could blindly trust with my life, knowing that he would never let me down. So when he did let me down today, I was genuinely disappointed. I am sorry, young master, but you cannot possibly understand what I was going through. I didn't want to tell you about my daughter because I feared disappointing you. I was afraid you would judge me, that the respect you had for me would disappear. I was terrified of letting you down. Yes, it is true that taking care of you is my job, and that you are my responsibility, but I don't just perform my duties for the pay. I do my job because I love it. I love looking after you. Young master, I have never accomplished anything worthwhile in my life, but watching you grow into a finer man than even your father was, and knowing I played a part in that, is what keeps me going. It is what inspires me to wake up every day with a smile. You are the best thing that has happened to me, young master, and one of the few things in my life that I did right. And no, I don't just consider you my family. You are my family, Bruce. Alfred answered, his voice breaking down with heavy emotion. Oh God, I think I am going to cry, Slade muttered from the side before partially opening his mask and using a tissue to rub his eyes. Wow, I don't know what to say. Thanks, I guess. I think we both needed to get those emotions out of our system, didn't we? I awkwardly chuckled, trying to ignore Slade once again. I guess whoever said that men get awkward around heavy emotions could not be more right, because this was becoming increasingly awkward, now that we were both done expressing our innermost thoughts out in the open. And don't worry, I am here for whatever you need, Alfred. I will give my 100% to bring back your daughter, who is effectively more or less my sister. Just tell me who this woman is, and I will sort everything out with her. If she wants money, we will give her as much money as she wants. We can even take her to court if she is abusive, or maybe Batman can low-key threaten her if she is a criminal of some kind. You know what? Just give me her name and address, and I will take care of the rest. I will bring your daughter to you. I continued with absolute determination. Thank you for saying all that, young master. You have no idea how much those words of yours mean to me. But fret not, you shan't need to employ your power in such a direct manner. The mother isn't inherently a bad person. It is her position that complicates the safe return of my daughter. However, I have discovered a way to achieve this without arousing suspicion, causing a scandal, or alerting any of her adversaries to my daughter's existence. Alfred responded with a smile. As for who her mother is, I believe you may have encountered her once at a public event. She is, in fact, the current Queen of England. He concluded with a straight face. Bruce. Alfred. I knew this would surprise even the genius Bruce Wayne. You owe me $10, Alfred. Slade. After a few seconds of silence, which almost felt like an eternity, I looked at Slade with a confused expression on my face before asking, did I? Yes, you heard that correctly, and no, you are not going crazy. I checked the letter the Queen sent him and verified all the information 3 times before coming here. He does seem to have a mysterious daughter with the bloody Queen of England. You see, our friend Alfred here doesn't seem to believe in using protection, and he also must be as fertile as a horse because he got her pregnant in one night. The Queen must have, of course, taken a Plan B pill later, but as we can all see, it was one of the special cases where the pill didn't work. And later, the Queen probably couldn't abort the baby because of her rare blood condition that runs in their bloodline, which makes a lot of meds and surgeries extremely dangerous for them. Almost every member of the royal family tries their best to avoid surgeries for that very reason after all. After the girl was born, The Queen was kind enough not to kill her then and there to get rid of her permanently. Instead, they named her Julia Pennyworth after her father and decided to keep her existence a complete secret till now to maintain their power and squeaky clean image. They silently put her in a well-reputed orphanage, looked after her a little from behind the scenes, and even helped her get inside the Special Reconnaissance Regiment, a special reconnaissance unit of the British Army affiliated with MI6 to make sure that she could take care of herself once she grew up. Julia was always considered a genius and a very capable young girl with a stellar career in front of her, but it seems that she has unfortunately come under the radar of some shady organizations who are also the enemies of the Crown because of one of her missions. Slade explained after interrupting my dazed words. Some of these organizations are rather tricky to deal with, and the monarchy is keen to avoid showing any chinks in its armor right now. So the few people who are aware of Julia now want to discard her as collateral. The Queen, after finding out about this, quite unexpectedly, discovered that she actually possessed some amount of motherly affection for her secret daughter. Thus, she contacted me to help Julia get out of Europe for some time until things settled. However, initially, it was difficult for both the Queen and us to directly use our influence on the special regiment she is involved with without revealing who she really is. But because of the attack that happened on you in Rome, as well as the assault that happened on your uncle's family in Brussels, we have found a workaround. Alfred revealed with a sheepish face. A workaround that doesn't involve telling her or the army about her royal bloodline. Yes, we had an opportunity to negotiate with the British Army in the presence of representatives of various other nations of the European Union, and after telling them that we have a lot of information and intelligence on the organization that orchestrated the attack on your aunt and her daughters, I am really proud to tell you that they agreed that as long as we give them what they want, which is simply my and Wayne International's assistance in uncovering essential details about the terrorist organization behind the latest attack, they will permanently station Julia to the US as your bodyguard and will just forget about her. Slade completed Aford's words with a happy nod like he was extremely impressed with his negotiating skills. Did you guys just say that she would be permanently assigned as my bodyguard? Bruce Wayne POV. I really hope nobody tries anything stupid against Alfred, at least for their own sake. I muttered audibly after Alfred left with a USB drive. I gave him the contained data that I had extracted from the mind of the terrorist leader as well as various other pieces of evidence I had collected against the militant group linking it to various other illegal activities all over the globe. In just a short amount of time, I had already found almost everything about them with the help of the memories I stole from the leader's brain. It turns out that the extremist organization that attacked my uncle's family was called the Many Arms of Death, which was actually just a front for a shady company named Cali Corporation which sold weapons. And like most other companies in common stupid comic book plots, the company staged attacks on important diplomats worldwide, particularly in Europe and North America, to encourage nations to upgrade their defense and military capabilities by buying weapons from them. For the wider public, the Many Arms of Death reasoned that they staged attacks to bring about change in the governmental structures of corrupted nations through their violent activities, but the truth was that they were just doing this for money and to help Cali Corporation meet their annual sales target each year. Of course, whoever devised this stupid plan was a massive idiot since there were hundreds of holes in their logic, and their strategy didn't even make sense from a business standpoint. I mean, why would countries buy weapons from a small private company with subpar weaponry designs to upgrade their defenses when they could buy the most cutting-edge technologies from multinational corporations with immense global connections? In fact, after some digging, I found out that a lot of their terroristic activities in the last few years seem to have increased our own weaponry and defense sales instead of theirs, and they still didn't seem to have realized that fact. Cali Corporation was truly a company run by a group of evil idiots. Hearing my concern, Slade seemed to think about it for a few seconds before replying. I admit politicians are no doubt ruthless and vile, but even the most skilled and experienced of them knows not to anger or antagonize a billionaire who owns and controls one of the biggest corporations in the world. It is common knowledge that even Berkshire Hathaway falls short of the number of businesses Wayne Enterprises has been dominating. So don't worry, they won't be going against their word once Alfred gives them the information, especially since their reputation is the one being affected the most because of the attacks by those terrorists. As for Cali Corporation, they probably will try to bribe a few people to get out of the mess once they realize that they are caught, but ultimately, the result won't change with how much evidence you have on them. The worst they can do is use their militant arm to spread more chaos, but I am 100% sure that your colony, or should I say, Wayne Security, can immediately take care of them in that case. After all, I trained them myself and know for a fact that with their dedication towards you combined with their new physical enhancements, they can absolutely decimate any terrorist organization they encounter. Slade reassured. You are right. They are plenty enough to protect Alfred. I even gave upgrades to their equipment and weapons. Also, Alfred is plenty capable himself as well. With his skills, the Lagavor gun, his peak human body, and his nanotech-based tuxedo, it will take a lot for anybody to hurt him. Anyway, it's not like I will play by the rules too. I will be sending a copy of all the pieces of evidence I have collected on the many arms of Death and Cali Corporation to my uncle as well. With how bloodthirsty he is for revenge, he will make sure to completely eliminate them using his connections in NATO and the US military. I mean, he isn't exactly one of the most respected captains in the army and an important military advisor to the states because of how kind and forgiving he is. I chuckled while remembering reading about the absurd number of brutal missions he had completed over the years throughout his stellar career. See, I told you hacking into the Pentagon and checking their data on your family will be useful one day. The only reason you advised me to do that was because you wanted me to delete everything the government had on you and your family. I replied with a deadpan. That too. He chuckled. By the way, as I was saying, I need your help on something as well. You aren't too busy, are you? I heard that the crime rate has been increasing in Gotham for the last few days with new gangs rising out of nowhere while the old ones are coming out of hiding. I even heard rumors about some unique criminals like a mercenary having guns for hands or bank robbers dressing up as human insects with high-intensity flamethrowers. Slade commented before taking a look at the giant screen on the wall where different footage of robberies and other crimes were playing in a loop. Yeah, but there is nothing too serious. It just seems that a lot of criminals have begun to study hard nowadays, with how they have been able to develop unique gadgets to commit crimes. Even those who aren't that smart seem to possess their own unique quirks, while most of the normal criminals prefer working for these special villains. However, it's nothing I can't take care of with a few nights of hard work. You don't have to worry about that. Tell me what you need. I asked, knowing that his asking me for help was a big deal for him since he was the type of person who didn't like asking people for anything. Well, anything except for money, that is. Slade was the type of guy who preferred silently suffering alone, rather than trying to reach out to anyone else for help. His sense of humor was there to cover up how broken he was from the inside. It was a defense mechanism that he subconsciously came up with to make people like him, even though he would never admit it himself. Do you remember you once told me that the experimental serum that transformed me into a superhuman might have changed me more than I realize? Like it could have affected my brain as well? Turns out, you were right. It did affect me mentally, and I think it still does. For the last few months, I have been having severe mood changes. At first, the effects were minimal, and I thought I could handle it on my own with training and meditation. But lately, I feel like I am losing control, drowning in all the bad negative emotions inside me. I have been having constant arguments with my wife, Adeline, while neglecting my children. Last week, I even hit her for the first time in my life, simply because she didn't want me to hand a gun to our babies. Honestly, I don't even remember why I tried giving a weapon to my little kids anymore, but all I know is that I am a danger to my family right now. So, I finally decided to ask for your help since I don't know anyone else smarter than you. He somehow blurted out, his voice almost breaking at the end due to his regret. I am sorry to hear that, Slade. But fret not, I have the solution to your problem right here. I said as I opened one of the top shelves in the corner and took out a small jet injector labeled Deathstroke 0CM1 before tossing it to Slade. That will perfect the enhancement serum formula running through your veins so that it doesn't affect your brain anymore or cause any further personality issues. However, you still have mild PTSD and anxiety issues due to your long period of intense service in the Army. So, I will have to recommend at least half an hour of counseling in the AMU sphere every week for the next 3 months. Cortana will help you with that and make sure that you are as good as new by the time you are done. Oh, and also, get a healthier diet than you currently have. Even your miraculous healing abilities will fall short if you keep eating an XXL-sized cheeseburger with extra cheese on top of it every day. I advised before getting back to cleaning my armor, since I was going to need it real soon. That's it? This serum and a few hours of counseling are all I need to cure myself of all my mental health problems? He asked, his voice full of disbelief. And a good diet, yes. But the final results would heavily depend on how much effort you are putting into this. I shrugged casually. So you had the cure for the imperfect serum all this time? But you didn't even think of telling me until now? Also, to make this, you would have needed my DNA, right? Where did you get that? Don't tell me you stole it from me. Is that why there is a small bald patch on my head? He asked, full of righteous anger. Yes, I did have your cure all this time, but tell me, Would you have appreciated it if I just handed it over to you? Would you have even taken it? I have been giving hints about your condition for a long time. But every time, you simply chose to ignore me. That's why I never told you about the serum, because I knew that when you truly need it, you would ask for my help, and that would be the best time for me to hand it over. And no, I didn't steal your hair. However, I would appreciate it if you never ask me where I got your DNA sample from, since I don't want to remember that phase of my life. But don't worry, I won't be making clones of you or stuff. As for your bald patch, that's either your imagination or because you are getting old. I said, trying my best to hide the fact that I had to steal the tissues he used to masturbate in to get hold of his DNA samples. You are sick. He grumbled like a wronged kid as he began to walk away, which only made me chuckle. Oh, and by the way, I interrupted, making him look back at me in annoyance, you are welcome. Inside the Bank of America, Gotham Central Park, omniscient POV. Hey Lloyd, did you see the news this evening? Some genius researcher just claimed that he is going to build a large machine in Star City that can theoretically generate enough energy to power the entire city without any pollution or fuel. Isn't that just unbelievable? He is calling it a particle accelerator or something. The people in the news are even saying that his invention can change the world, and we will enter a new age of limitless energy if it ever succeeds. One of the two security guards, dressed in a light blue uniform, sitting on a chair in front of a dozen monitors showing different camera feeds of the entire bank from different angles, explained to his colleague with genuine excitement in his voice. You are watching too much news nowadays, Harry. This is America. It doesn't matter if someone invents the source of unlimited energy or an infinite food hacks, we will always be the ones ending up paying for it because that's how capitalism works. It leeches us of our wealth and freedom by channeling everything we have into the pockets of the top 1% who are richer than us. Our country right now is a joke, and no matter what potential invention or the next great discovery they try to fill up our minds with, our situation isn't going to improve. God, sometimes I really wish that Hitler would have won that day. At least, that way, we would have known that we are slaves to the elites. His friend, who was dressed in a similar-looking uniform, responded with a displeased click of his tongue before going on to finish his grilled sandwich with an aggrieved look on his face. You are just angry because your wife cheated on you with some rich banker before leaving you with the kids, aren't you? Sigh, don't worry, buddy. It's going to get better. It has to. I mean, we live in Gotham. How much worse can it possibly get? Harry replied with a straight face, making his colleague just release an annoyed grunt in response. Harry and Lloyd were both security guards in the Gotham Central Park branch of Bank of America and were currently working their posts in the CCTV control room, diligently guarding the bank at midnight while everyone else in the rest of the city was sleeping in their comfortable beds. Well, at least that's what they would be telling their superior later, because the truth was that they were more focused on anything but keeping an eye on the CCTV cameras. In fact, this had almost become routine for not just the two but all four of the security guards working in the bank at this time, since they were pretty sure that no idiot in Gotham would ever try robbing a bank that was located just a few blocks away from the police headquarters of the city. Indeed, it was also the reason why every guard in the bank absolutely loved their job here, as they didn't have to worry about having to defend against most of the city's notorious psychotic criminals and gangsters. Unbeknownst to them, though, this false sense of security they had developed was about to be shattered very soon, because as the two guards continued to converse on various topics, they failed to notice the presence of two men standing at the bank's entrance. These two individuals were clad in bizarre makeshift costumes, making them look like Comic-Con cosplayers. However, despite looking like they had come straight from a fictional comic book movie, each of the two held extremely realistic-looking weapons in their hands, making it clear that they meant business. See, I told you this is going to be easy. Every single one of these Gotham cops is a lazy pig. They won't be coming here even if we call them here ourselves. We will be in and out before those bastards even realize what happened. Just follow my lead, one of the two men standing outside the bank, who was wearing a custom-designed tactical vest and a gas mask, said with a huge, excited grin on his face as he aimed what looked like a heavily customized water gun at the closed entrance of the bank. For those wondering who he was, the man was none other than a mildly famous supervillain named Killer Moth, a rising name in Gotham's underworld. Besides being known for his obsession with moths, toxic weapons, and bank heists, a crime in which he excelled, he was also known for his admiration of the rumored Dark Knight, someone he wanted to be like one day, although for helping criminals like himself instead of civilians. Yeah, you were right, it was a good idea to do this team up. This is much more fun than I originally thought it would be. I can't wait to burn a few people to charred flesh with my new flamethrower. I even replaced its fuel with a more efficient one for today's special event. The The person standing beside Killer Moth answered with an overenthusiastic voice, sounding almost eager at the prospect of burning someone. Quite similar to Killer Moth, he too was dressed in weirdly styled clothing, but contrary to the former, his costume consisted of what looked like a repurposed, black-painted fire proximity suit generally worn by firefighters, along a full gas mask as his headgear and 2 pairs of small artificial wings attached to his back that made him look like a humanoid dragonfly. However, the biggest difference that separated him from his more well-known partner in crime was the existence of a large flamethrower in his hand, a signature weapon of another notorious supervillain in Gotham who was slowly getting a name in the city's underworld for his brutality. He was none other than the newbie arsonist, Firefly. Hey, slow down right there. I never said that we were going to kill people for no reason. We are just here for the money, not because we are some sort of freaks who derive joy from causing pain to others. As long as we get the money without any hiccups, we can just leave as peacefully as we came. Our weapons here are either only for self-defense or for scaring people. Killer Moth immediately warned his partner with a displeased voice, chastising him for his bloodlust that could put them in unnecessary trouble with the cops. Or someone a whole lot worse. No, of course not. Firefly chuckled in response, seemingly agreeing with his veteran partner before aiming his flamethrower at the entrance of the bank and pressing the trigger, releasing an unnaturally large torrent of flames that instantly started to slowly but surely melt the entrance. Whoosh, in a matter of only minutes, the fire melted down a major portion of the entrance into liquid as a hole about the size of a grown man appeared at the center of it, paving a path for both of them into the bank. Special fuel that can make any ordinary flamethrower 10 times stronger. LexCorp does deliver on its promises, doesn't it? Firefly commented with a smirk as the duo walked into the bank through the newly created hole. Cool fire, but it is nothing as impressive as my venom. Killer Moth laughed as he took out a couple of strange-looking gray-colored grenades from his belt buckle and tossed them around randomly. As soon as the grenades exploded, the entire bank was filled with thick white smoke, making sure that the duo could now complete whatever they wanted to do without being shot by snipers or stray cops and guards. They had already mapped the entire building before coming here and knew exactly where the money was stored. So, not wasting any time, they went straight to the primary vault before Killer Moth took out a wet sponge from his buckle and began to rub the entire vault door with it. This is an extremely flammable solution that also has an acidic effect on metals after being combusted. Try using your fire now, it should have an increased effect. He signaled towards the vault. Of course, Firefly did not have to be told twice. He immediately used his flame gun at the highest setting and fired toward the vault. In an instant, the entire room was covered with bright light from the fire as black smoke from the flamethrower began to mix with the white one, forcing even Killer Moth and Firefly to squint a little despite the gas masks on their faces. The moment the fire from Firefly's flamethrower touched the door, the steel caught on fire with a mini explosion, after which in front of their very eyes, the steel door of the vault began to quickly dent, twist, and turn before melting as the heat of the fire intensified with each passing moment. However, before the door could melt completely, Killer Moth and Firefly heard multiple footsteps coming their way. It seems the stupid guards have finally woken up from their slumber. I was quite surprised when we didn't find any of them trying to stop us when we entered the building. But I guess they are just really bad at their job. Don't worry though, they won't be interfering with our work. You see, I mixed a little something for them inside my smoke formula. Something they are quite going to enjoy. Killer Moth grinned from behind his mask as the guards slowed down in their approach. By the time they reached the two, all 4 of them looked like they were more stoned than they had ever been in their entire lives as they staggered around with stupid smiles on their faces like a bunch of drunkard fools. That was surprising. What is in that smoke, marijuana? Also, where did you buy those smoke bombs? I want some too. Firefly asked while laughing. They are under the influence of a synthetic hallucinogen I made with the help of my moths. Unlike you, I don't buy my gadgets. I simply make them at home. They are 100% homemade. Absolutely killer weapons by the Killer Moth. He answered with a proud look on his face. Well, whatever makes you happy, buddy. Let's kill them before we melt down the last layer of the vault door. Firefly remarked with a joyful tone in his voice as he aimed his flamethrower at the 5 guards who had already dropped their weapons and were dancing around pretending to chase butterflies. Wait, no. We agreed on no killing without proper reason, remember? Plus, look at them. They aren't a threat to us anymore. We can just do our job, steal the money, and get out before this gets complicated further. Why kill a bunch of people for no reason at all? We have already got access to the money we wanted. Killer Moth asked with a frown on his face as he took a few steps back to make it clear that he wasn't in support of Firefly's idea at all. You think I want to kill them because I feel threatened by their presence? No man, of course not. I don't even want to kill them. I just want to watch them burn. I want to see their skin catching fire, smell their flesh burning, and hear their bones cracking from the heat of the fire. I want to see the visions in their burning corpses. The fire tells me the future, it shows me stuff. It's a gift. Haha. Fire is the most beautiful thing one could ever see. These guards burning in the purest of fires lit by me is a gift, my friend, and I need to give it to them. I need to see what the fire wants to show me. And nobody is going to stop me from that. Not even you. Ha 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 ha. Firefly began to laugh crazily while pointing his flamethrower at Killer Moth to make him understand how serious and determined he was about this. Damn it, you are crazy. This cannot be good for my mental health. You know what? I don't want any part in this. God damn it, I don't want to be a partner in crime of an obsessive arsonist. Just give me my share of the money and I'll walk away. Then you can do anything you wish, including burning a bunch of hallucinating watchguards to ashes. That won't be my problem anymore. Killer Moth finally reasoned while raising his hands to show that he didn't mean any harm to Firefly at all. However, before Firefly could react, a third deeper and more resonant voice suddenly spoke up from deep within the smoke. As happy I am to see the both of you trying to reach a consensus. Unfortunately, however, the only thing the two of you can share after this will be a prison cell. However, even that will heavily depend on how much of you two are left after once I am done with you two. What the hell? Who is it? Show yourself, coward. I swear if you don't come out right now, then I won't care if you are a cop, a security guard, or a civilian. I will burn you alive, no matter what. Firefly threatened as he randomly sprayed fire everywhere around the room from his flamethrower. I'd like to see you try. A tall, armored figure with two distinct tall and pointed bat ears at the two sides of his head answered in the same deep resonant voice, before calmly walking up to the two villains from within the smoke. Oh crap. Shit. It's Batman. Killer Moth yelped in a mixture of fear and surprise, instinctively trying to make a run for it the moment he laid his eyes on the Dark Knight appearing before him, but unfortunately for the villain, a lack of visual clarity because of his bulky gas mask as well as the thick smoke blocking his vision combined in successfully making him fall headfirst onto the floor with quite a loud thud. "AHH my head." He cried out in pain. "You idiot. I knew you didn't have it in you to become a real criminal." Firefly mocked with a snicker before shifting his focus to Batman instead. "As for you, I have heard rumors that you are a demon that comes in the night, and not even an onslaught of bullets can penetrate your body. Well, I call it bullshit. But still, I would like to see how you hold on against the purity of fire. I have never seen a burning demon before. I would like to see one today." Ha! Firefly laughed maniacally as he aimed his flame gun at Batman, before pressing the trigger. Immediately, a small river of red and yellow fire flooded Batman, threatening to burn him where he stood, but the Dark Knight didn't bother to even move, nor did he react. He just stood still like he didn't even care about the fire at all. Even when the heat touched his armor and tried to burn it to cinders, he just stood there without moving even the slightest, his gaze fixed on Firefly. 2000 degrees Celsius, 3632 degrees Fahrenheit. Impressive. You have been using that flamethrower to burn people alive for the last few days, Firefly. You have killed about 12 people till now, your most common target being the homeless. You are obsessed with fire and burning things alive, right? So, I think you should feel it yourself, how it feels to burn alive. Batman spoke after a few seconds of intense silence as the fire from Firefly's flamethrower began to weaken due to its decreasing fuel. However, dying once from burning does not equal the pain you cause to your 12 victims. No, not at all. You should die every day for what you have done. Batman muttered the last part more to himself as he approached Firefly with steady steps amid the rampaging fire. For the first time in his life, the fire-obsessed villain wasn't so sure about the power of fire anymore. He couldn't figure out what was happening. Why was the man in front of him able to walk unscathed through such a torrent of fire? Didn't fire treat everyone equally? Shouldn't it completely burn Batman to ashes like all other things in the world? At least this should result in some third-degree burns, even if the suit is made of the best fire-resistant material in the world. The heat from the fire alone should have made the guy dizzy and weak, but contrary to all of his expectations, the Dark Knight didn't look even the slightest bit bothered. For the first time in his life, Firefly's fear dwarfed his obsession with fire. He wanted to run, to escape, but he couldn't. It was like he was stuck to the ground, like his legs had melted to jelly. Stab, not even acknowledging Firefly's weak resistance against his might. Batman stabbed him in the neck with the needle of a syringe he had hidden inside his armor and injected the viscous liquid inside the criminal's body. What? What was that? What did you give me? He asked in a panic as he felt a warm twitch slowly descend from his shoulders down through his spine. A special neurotoxin that overstimulates every nerve receptor you have in your body, making you feel so much stinging pain that your mind gets tricked into believing that you are burning alive, although it will never be fatal. It is very useful as a truth serum, but an even more useful tool for torture, since it is undetectable in the bloodstream, with its only visible symptom being a slightly heightened temperature. Also, its effects can only be removed after you get injected with the antidote. By the way, only one person in the world has its antidote. Guess who it is? Batman calmly explained with a stoic voice before bringing his lips closer to Firefly's ears. Welcome to Hell on Earth, Garfield Lins. Oh, and don't forget to write what visions you see when you are the one burning alive. He mocked before walking away from the villain, who began to simultaneously cry and scream in pain as he weakly fell down on the floor. Firefly was never going to harm anyone ever again. Even if he somehow got out of jail, he would have to spend the rest of his days at some assisted living or intermediate care facilities. The intense burning feeling in his skin and flesh would never truly go away, not unless Bruce gave him the antidote, which he didn't plan to do at all. It would serve as a reminder of all the sins he had committed, and the more he would try to move around or try to bear through the pain, the worse it would get. He would probably never even be able to properly speak again after this. For the rest of his miserable life, the Firefly, aka Garfield Lins, was truly going to pay for all the sadistic crimes he had committed against the innocent. No, please. I surrender. I didn't do anything. I am innocent here. I was against Firefly's idea of burning and killing people from the very start. In fact, I will never even try to go back into the world of crime. I will leave all this behind. Just please don't do it. I swear to my dead parents and my future wife and children that I will never again break the law. I will surrender to the cops. I will plead for the maximum sentence. Even after I get released, I will destroy all my weapons and gadgets and live an ordinary life. Just please don't do to me what you did to Firefly. Please. Please. Killer Moth began to cry with streams of tears and snot leaking from his eyes and nose. He had initially thought about taking a chance and attacking Batman with his toxins before trying his luck to escape. But the moment he had witnessed the Dark Knight surviving Firefly's flamethrower unscathed after being in its direct line of fire, all thoughts of resistance instantly left his mind. Furthermore, when he saw the fire-obsessed villain crying and screaming in pain, Killer Moth had completely given up. Right now, after hearing about the punishment that Batman had doled to Firefly, he wanted nothing more than to just somehow survive this ordeal. If he had to spend the rest of his miserable life in prison for that, he was prepared for exactly that. I will give you a chance, Drury Walker, to right your wrongs. I expect you to wait here and surrender yourself to the cops. Tell them everything, and I mean everything, but remember, I will be listening. If you try to weasel out of your deserved punishment, I will know and I will find you. I know everything there is to know about you. There is nothing you can do to fight me or ever escape me. I am vengeance itself. I will find you and I will make you suffer pain so unimaginable that you will wiggle, and you will beg, praying for the sweet release of death. But I won't allow you that release. And if somehow you succeed in killing yourself, you won't find peace when you wake up in hell. You will find me. Batman announced in an exceptionally chilly and grim voice. Remember, Drury, I am always watching. From every shadow, every nook, every corner, every dark place that you can possibly imagine, I am always watching. Don't let me regret sparing you, or you will regret ever being born. He finished his words before turning back towards the direction of the entrance. Before departing, he simply lifted his left hand, commanding his nanobot armor to swiftly expand to quintuple its initial size around his arm, giving his hand a similar appearance to the Hulk's. Then channeling his chi into it, he swung with all his might. With a swoosh, the smoke enveloping the entire area was dispelled by the airflow from the single swing of his arm, revealing the interior of the bank once more. The guards remained in their dazed and hallucinated state, but Batman could determine from their symptoms that they would recover to their normal selves once again after a few hours of rest. A couple of GCPD cars also began to finally arrive at the location, which made Batman smirk inwardly in amusement before disappearing in the darkness of the night, only leaving a couple of hallucinating security guards, Firefly screaming and crying in pain, and Killer Moth still sitting on the floor in the exact same position, his body shaking in fear with a thin stream of liquid visibly dripping down his pants. It was another successful night for the Darkest Night. Bruce Wayne POV. 5 years of imprisonment for the Killer Moth and 30 years for the Firefly, huh? That is a long enough sentence for a city with a corrupted government like this. Of course, if they try escaping their cells and returning to their life of crime again, their punishment won't be mere imprisonment anymore. I believe in giving second chances where there is due, but not third or fourth ones. However, that being said, Firefly won't be able to escape or do anything whatsoever in his current condition, although I have a feeling that Killer Moth won't try it either. I gave a knowing smile as I observed the case details of the 2 former criminals. You know, Killer Moth would have gotten a longer statement too, but the fact that he pleaded guilty and that he hadn't actually killed anyone till now played in his favor. He was extremely lucky that he hadn't become a true villainous criminal yet. Otherwise, this could have gone very badly for him, either in the form of a very long sentence in court or worse, a very agonizing punishment from you. Cortana agreed with me as she showed me the various petty crimes Killer Moth had been committing to try and start his career in the Gotham criminal underworld. Anyway, have you finally decided what type of body you want? I have been thinking about it for a while, and I think you should go for a body that you could disguise as a human through hologram projection technology. If you want, I could even give it some unique abilities like elemental manipulation. I asked while imagining EDI from Mass Effect with the wind or magma manipulation powers of Red Tornado or Red Volcano. Or I could also build you a body like the Terminator X, fitted to the brim with high-tech weapons and an advanced nanotech mimetic polyalloy. That could be quite versatile, especially since this would be your first ever body. I advised her, trying to help her in choosing the most effective physical body for her. But if you can wait just for a few more years, I think I can even build you a body that can change and adapt to anything. I muttered while picturing a Mazo from DCAU or the Super Adaptoid from Marvel. Hell, even the adapting Sentinels from Days of Future Past were OPs. Actually, I had been thinking about this for a while, Bruce. As much as I love your enthusiasm, I think I have a better idea for my body than just simple mechanical androids. I remember that you once mentioned the concept of a synthezoid where one can merge an organic body with that of a machine using artificial tissue grafting and nanotechnology to create something much greater than the sum of its counterparts. I think I would like something like that. With a little twist, of course. She responded with a mischievous voice, like she knew something I didn't. A partially organic body? What do you have in mind exactly? I asked while raising one of my eyebrows with some confusion. We still have that Kryptonian woman's body in one of our freezers, don't we? She asked, trying to give me a clue as to what she really wanted. You want a dead Kryptonian as your new body? I questioned in a tone of absolute surprise. How is that an upgrade? Why would you want someone else's dead body? Even if we don't consider using the dead Kryptonian's body as illegal organ harvesting or some type of necrophilia, the fact remains unchanged that the woman wasn't special in any way, nor was she that good-looking. She was just an average female Kryptonian warrior. Taking her identity would be useless for you. I expressed my doubts. Also, if you are doing this to gain the powers of a Kryptonian, then believe me, the power to adapt and copy other powers is much more useful. It's not just about the power, Bruce. Once I become a synthezoid, you can always make changes later to my body to give me the super adapting powers that you were talking about. The reason why I want her body is because I want to be an organic being. I want to feel exactly like you, Alfred, Vicky, Helena, or Selena feel. I want to feel the wind in my face and smell the aroma of food. I want to taste Alfred's cooking and experience true emotions while feeling different hormones racing inside me. Her body will let me feel all those things. And the best thing is that while we turn her biological body into a synthezoid, we could always change her face and the rest of her physical body traits to what we desire. So, she will be practically new once we are done with the operation. I know that you have already successfully developed Red Sun solar lanterns to weaken Kryptonians into being powerless. We can use those to complete the procedure without any difficulties. She answered with an excited voice. But why do you want her corpse exactly? Why not just use her and Clar's Kryptonian DNA to make a brand new clone body? You know very well that I have the technology to do that. Hell, with some changes, I could even make a brain-dead Kryptonian female even stronger than her or Clark. You won't even have to be a synthezoid to inhabit her body. All we will need to upload your consciousness into a newly cloned body is a couple of microbrain implants. That would be the most effective way for you to have an organic Kryptonian body for yourself, and I am sure that you have already thought of that too. So despite all that, why do you insist on trying to take over her lifeless carcass? I questioned her with a frown. Because I have already started working on her dead body a few months ago. You see, after you were done extracting samples of her tissues and organs, you gave me the authority to store her body away since you had no more use for it. However, I thought that storing or disposing of such a valuable specimen would be useless. So, I started a new project of my own. I call it Failsafe. It was supposed to be the ultimate protocol in case you were ever in mortal danger, the ultimate weapon that I could use to rescue you if nothing else worked. But sadly, the project wasn't as easy as I initially imagined it to be. I tried to introduce several changes inside the Kryptonian dead body to make it better and stronger, while parallelly trying to nullify the weaknesses that their race inherently possesses, but quite surprisingly, those weaknesses never went away completely. Even the extra abilities that I tried to incorporate into them weren't too successful. The only reason the body didn't completely deteriorate was because of the Kryptonian birthing matrix technology we copied from the space pod that Clark arrived in. Cortana revealed with a downcast voice. Of course, that would be the case. Kryptonian DNA is extremely unstable to work with since it reacts differently to different energies. Making their clones or changing their genetic structure is extremely difficult, even though not quite impossible. I remember hearing once that there were a lot of failed clones of Superman over the years, but as time went by, some were indeed successful in cloning him without defects. So it was not a surprise that Cortana failed to complete her failsafe, since she just didn't have enough data about Kryptonians yet. Maybe she could have been successful in doing this on her own after she got access to the data of the Kryptonian Genesis chamber in the Fortress of Solitude, but unfortunately for her, she has no knowledge of it right now. The weaknesses of Kryptonians can't be removed as easily as you think, Cortana. If it was that simple, I would have already converted myself into a perfect Kryptonian by now. I am smart enough to concoct a serum that could make me a Kryptonian, even if it is for a day, if not permanently. However, the reasons stopping me from doing exactly that are their multiple apparent weaknesses. For example, theoretically, green kryptonite should make Kryptonians as weak as normal humans since it destroys the unique solar energy stored in their bodies, right? But why do you think that they struggle to even stand up while near those glowing pieces of green rocks? It's because they are going from being planet-destroying powerhouses to ordinary humans in less than a second. From a human perspective, it's like going from zero gravity to normal gravity in a single beat. The stored solar energy in their bodies depletes so fast that to them, it is like going from an abundance of oxygen to barely having any. That's why they can barely even move under the effects of kryptonite or red Sunday. And of course, I hope that you haven't forgotten that many more forms of kryptonite also exist which can cause other unexpected effects on Kryptonians that might be even worse than the green one, like making them evil, creating their twisted clones, or giving them multiple personality disorders. Heh, I do not need that many weaknesses in me. To me, being an enhanced superhuman is better than being a normal Kryptonian. But I do see where you are coming from. A failsafe which could take on a Kryptonian level being in a fair fight could certainly be useful in a universe as dangerous as this one. I revealed with a face full of apparent distaste. It was true. I could indeed become a Kryptonian if I truly wanted. The formula I had come up with could make anyone a full-fledged Kryptonian for a day, and I was positive that with some tweaks, I could even extend it to weeks or months. I could even make it permanent if I could just gather more data about Kryptonians somehow. But I wasn't keen on doing it because I simply had better plans in mind. I do want the powers and strength of a Kryptonian. Every person who has ever watched a Superman movie does. But I want them without any baggage. Or I should say I want their ultimate versions without any weaknesses whatsoever. And I even had a plan for that. I wanted to use Kryptonian DNA to perfect a certain serum that once made a drug addict into the unstable Golden Superman of Marvel. Yes, my ultimate plan was to perfect the Golden Sensei serum. Although honestly, I was still far from that goal since I couldn't even figure out the first step to make the said serum. But still, one can dream, right? Fine, I'll help you shape that Kryptonian's dead body into an appropriate vessel for you. I'll make you a synthezoid and get rid of those petty weaknesses as well. Since you will be half machine, doing it will be monumentally easier. In fact, I think we can actually use kryptonite to our advantage for this. We could even try and use the 8th metal we got from the Olympians to make the nanites for your synthezoid body. I am pretty sure it will be even better than vibranium if we are successful. I thoughtfully uttered as I remembered the 8th metal chunk I had stored in one of my lockers. Initially, I thought that Hephaestus had only sent me 50 kilograms of the metal, but it turns out that the term lighter than air wasn't just for sounding cool. The volume of metal that Hephaestus had sent me was huge. Its mass did add up to only 50 kilograms, but the chunk of metal he had gifted me with was more like the size of a massive pillar or boulder. The only reason it was able to fit inside the gift box was because of the magical cloth the metal was wrapped in. The cloth seemed to be some kind of magical item that could decrease the size of the boulder into that of a big rock when wrapped around the metal. Of course, I tried to spam it for various other functions too when I first learned of it, but unfortunately, Hephaestus had already expected me to try to abuse it, and had thus charmed the cloth in such a way that it only worked when wrapped around 8th metal. As I mentioned, I had an ample supply of 8th metal for constructing Cortana's synthezoid body, with a significant amount remaining to create my own items. However, the only thing we will have to worry about is a power source strong enough to power a Kryptonian's body in case of an absence of yellow sunlight for extended periods, but I guess we can worry about that later when it comes to that. I nodded while contemplating if I could ever find something as powerful as one of the Infinity Stones for her in the DC universe, just like Vision had the Mind Stone in the MCU. Although, now that I think about it, I could build an energy source for her too. An arc reactor would be useless in her case since the energy it could produce at its peak would be like a drop of water in a well when it comes to the amount of energy a Kryptonian would need to function, but I could theoretically make a mini sun for her, much like Dr. Octopus once tried in the original Spider-Man movie. A source of infinite yellow solar energy for a Kryptonian. Gosh, I'm getting goosebumps. I thought to myself with a dreamy smile. Thank you for respecting my wishes, Bruce. I promise you that I will do my absolute best to protect and serve you with my body. Cortana declared in a passionate voice as her hologram jumped in delight. I should start using hard light technology in the cave as well. She will be of much more help that way, especially since we will have to work overtime to make her new body. I made a mental note to myself. Bruce Wayne POV, oh, and also your uncle, Jacob Kane left a message for you, sir. He has agreed to use your soldiers from Wayne Security as guards for his family. It seems that his wife, Mrs. Gabrielle Kane, succeeded in coaxing him to agree to it. However, he has a condition. He wants to see the effectiveness of the colony for himself first. He wishes to test them with a mission. Cortana informed, her voice and demeanor back to her professional secretary mode. He is seeking Wayne Security's collaboration with the U.S. military to dismantle a terrorist stronghold, more specifically a hideout currently utilized by the many arms of death. By the way, this is one of the strongholds of which you supplied intelligence to the European Union through Alfred. So it appears that this is not just merely a test of the suitability of Wayne Security soldiers as personal guards, but also an evaluation of their potential as mercenaries for partnership and utilization by U.S. defense forces when necessary. Your uncle is giving you a chance to prove your company's effectiveness to the U.S. government and defense forces. Really? Ha ha ha. It seems my uncle wants to give me a birthday gift ahead of time. Well, I guess the saying is true. Family is indeed always there for help. Cortana, inform the Alpha Platoon that they will be going on a terrorist elimination mission. If my uncle wants to see a show, we will give him a good one. Also, there will be no need for the U.S. military to be deployed as well. Wayne Security will be handling this on its own. I am sure that he will agree to it too once he learns that I will personally guarantee the success of the mission, while Wayne Solutions will compensate all losses and damages if anything goes wrong. I ordered. Got it, boss. I'll get to it. Cortana saluted dutifully. At that moment, one of the VR chambers situated at one of the corners of the cave suddenly opened with a hush sound as a figure slowly crawled out of it like a zombie. God. How much time has it been since I was in the VR machine? I swear I hate therapy more than even my in-laws. Also, why the hell would someone make a digital therapist as hot as a supermodel with such seductive and revealing clothes, yet not allow the patients to even touch her? My PTSD might be slowly getting cured with these weekly therapy sessions, but my wet dreams about that hot therapist MILF are just increasing every day. I think I might even be developing a bad case of PTBD now, post-therapy boner disorder. He snickered to himself at his own bad joke while sporting a boner in his tight spandex suit before finally noticing me and Cortana staring at him, leading to his smile instantly disappearing. Oh hey guys, didn't see you there. You didn't hear anything, did you? He asked with a weak smile as he subtly tried to cover his boner with his left hand. We saw and heard everything, I answered with a deadpan. Even recorded it for your wife to watch later. Cortana joined in with an innocent smile. Shit. 36 hours later, 1 a.m. at midnight, somewhere near the Karapiner Desert, Turkey, omniscient POV. Remember everyone, this is not just our first real mission, it is also our first opportunity to prove our worth to our generous benefactor and employer. According to our intel, in the middle of this desert, there is a hideout of the terrorist group called Many Arms of Death, the same organization responsible for attacking one of the family members of Mr. Wayne. We were successful in being able to trace the location of the hideout using advanced scanners and satellites, but now that the existence of this place has been confirmed, we have been tasked to eliminate everyone in the base while searching for more clues about the other bases and figuring out the identity of the topmost leaders of the organization without causing an international incident. This mission was set in motion as a contract from the US military, and it is imperative that the European Union or the government of Turkey not find out anything about it, as it is supposed to be highly classified. So we will have to be subtle and complete the assignment without alerting any of the local authorities. Furthermore, we have intel that some of these terrorists might be skilled and experienced professionals, deadly assassins who were trained to kill from birth. So be careful and do not in any way underestimate the enemy. You are free to use your abilities as you want. Use plasma weaponry to your advantage. Remember, their base is heavily fortified, but our advanced armor can take the heat. Move fast and hit hard. However, do not forget that explosives can only be used with explicit permission from me or whoever is in charge in my place. That is all for now. Godspeed. Jack, the leader of the Alpha platoon of the colony, finished briefing his subordinates with a nod before popping a white pill into his mouth. Following his briefing, the rest of the members gave him a disciplined salute before swallowing a similar-looking small white pill too, as they prepared themselves both physically and mentally to infiltrate the enemy, their hearts beating with pure excitement for their first mission. Mountain Desert Base of Many Arms of Death, Karapiner Desert, Turkey. A durable, cool-looking armor and plasma-based weaponry inspired from the world of Rebel Moon weren't the only things Bruce had given his colony members to ensure their strength. He had also changed their bodies with a few medical treatments and re-engineered them to be better than ordinary humans. Under his guidance, they not only had peak human bodies, but also possessed an extra organ called the mosaic organ. This new organ was quite peculiar. In general conditions, it mostly remained dormant in their bodies, but after coming in contact with a special chemical, it could temporarily enhance and change the human body physically as well as genetically to become something better. The organ could give its bearer the toughness, adaptability, and resilience of a cockroach while also providing them with a special ability from a different animal or insect species with whom they were the most compatible. This temporary power-up only persisted for 1 hour before the subject would need the chemical again, but as one might expect, 1 hour was plenty enough for a superhuman soldier to win a war. Currently, all 20 soldiers in the Alpha platoon were using these very cockroach-like abilities in the darkness of the night to stealthily advance up the mountain base while effortlessly scaling the walls. Once they were close enough to the entrance of the caves where the militants were expected to be hiding, Jack raised his fist, signaling the team to spread out. They moved quickly with practiced precision, their plasma rifles ready. The first line of defense in the base, a group of heavily armed militant guards keeping watch over the surroundings, were taken out swiftly and silently, the plasma bolts cutting through their armor like butter. Entrance secured. One of the operatives, who had the enhanced speed of a Japanese hornet, whispered while snapping the neck of the last guard at the entrance. Proceeding to the main compound. Copy that, Jack responded before using his enhanced strength of a Hercules beetle to smash through the entrance and the barricades. As soon as they broke through the entrance, a hail of bullets rained down on the colony members, almost as if the enemy was lying in wait for them. It was their good fortune that their armors were bulletproof, and they possessed the durability of literal cockroaches. Otherwise, it would have been uncertain if they could have remained unscathed even with their sharpened skills of an assassin. However, despite the initial shock, the colony members quickly adapted to the situation. Their enhanced abilities and superior skills gave them an edge over the ordinary terrorists they were facing in close combat, enabling them to take down their foes with almost brutal efficiency. While the colony soldiers were busy eliminating the worthless terrorists, in the heart of the base, two figures dressed in sleek, black-colored combat armor observed the fight on CCTV displays with begrudging faces as they wondered if they could escape or not. These two were not run-of-the-mill terrorists. They were professional assassins. They knew that despite having an advantage in numbers, they were fighting a losing battle. Winning against 20 superpowered warriors with high-tech weaponry was tough for them. They knew a losing battle when they saw one, and this was exactly that, a losing fight. However, they could not just admit defeat, especially since they had responsibilities of their own, duties they needed to fulfill. And most important of all, They had something in the cave that could not be allowed to fall into the hands of these infiltrators, no matter what. They would have to stop the invaders somehow, even if it meant completely blowing up this place to absolute shreds. Omniscient POV. We have to make sure to protect the Desert Rose. It can never fall into the hands of the invaders. Activate the detonation charges, Pike. Even if we must blow this entire base to protect the secret, we will do exactly that. One of the two extremist leaders, observing the colony soldiers decimating their troops, ordered in a grim tone of voice. Both of them were dressed in similar-looking black coats. The only thing that set apart the speaker from the other man in the room was a shining thin sword in his hands, or a rapier to be exact, while the other man was holding a small spear-like weapon commonly known as a pike. I have already set the charges, rapier. This is the detonator for it. We can blow this entire place up whenever we want. Pike quickly responded with a nod, while showing a small black remote that he was tightly holding in his hands. However, we should escape through the hidden tunnels underneath before we activate the detonator. Although I am ready to give my life to the cause, I am sure that the council would appreciate it more if we could inform them what truly happened here today, he said before removing the carpet from the floor of the room and revealing a small trapdoor underneath. Rapier showed a small frown on his face at Pike's words, but after thinking for a few moments, he too agreed with his logic. It wasn't even a question that both of them were immensely loyal to the organization they worked for. They were ready to give their lives at a moment's notice for the cause, but that didn't mean they wouldn't even try to escape with their lives intact. They were human beings too, and like most human beings in the world, they wanted to survive. Running away so soon? I should have known that all of you people's talks and ideals about changing the world and helping humanity rise against their corrupt governments were a ton of crap. Just when they were preparing to escape through the trapdoor, a voice suddenly interrupted them. The two immediately became alert to the noise and began to look around, trying to determine where the voice had originated from, but even after scanning the entire room, they couldn't find anyone or anything out of place. It was as if those clear words they had just heard originated from thin air. Do it, Pike. Activate the trigger now. Reaper quickly shouted while pointing at the detonator in Pike's hands. Alerted by Reaper's warnings, Pike decided to activate the detonator anyway and blow up the entire place without taking any chances. But before his finger could even twitch in response to the decision he had just made in his mind, a sudden pulse of energy seemed to manifest out of nowhere and short-circuited the remote, destroying it before it could be used for its true purpose. No. Both Pike and Reaper screamed as they felt the last remaining hope of completing their tasks slowly slip away from their grasp. As much as we would like to see every one of you, filth get burnt to ashes, we are still under orders from the chief to investigate the entire base before destroying it. So, you will have to settle for dying at my hands like the dogs you are instead of some last-measure suicide. The voice again declared, but this time Pike and Reaper were finally able to see the source of the voice as the human figure of Captain Jack, the leader of the Alpha Division of the colony, slowly materialized in front of their eyes. Chief was right. This suit's stealth capability is almost as good as Jenny's camouflage power that comes with her paintop cuttlefish legacy. Jack muttered to himself with a small smile under his mask, while calmly walking towards the two militants. You destroyed everything. You have no idea what you have done. Thousands of innocents will die because of you if what is found here ever gets out into the world. You are no better than killers. Reaper shouted in rage as he and Pike rushed towards Jack with their weapons drawn. Didn't your master ever teach you? Never bring medieval weapons to a gunfight. He quipped as he shot Pike in the chest with his energy gun, which seemed to knock the spear-wielding extremist out cold before casually blocking Reaper's sword strike with the back of his hand. You are trained well. However, unfortunately for you, bladed weapons no longer work against me, at least not blades made of common steel. Captain Jack punched the thin steel sword, instantly breaking it in half with a single strike. Reaper, although shocked by Jack's monstrous strength, didn't waste any time displaying surprise in his voice and immediately threw a grenade at him, not even caring about his own life or the life of his colleague. Jack, however, instead of dodging the grenade and taking cover, quickly caught it and threw it out of the room before bracing for the explosion. And indeed, a few seconds later, there was a small boom sound followed by dust flying everywhere, but none of the three appeared to be hurt due to the explosion. Stop. We can pay you as much as you want. We will give you everything you could possibly desire. Reaper tried to plead to buy some time while already preparing to throw another grenade from his buckle, but Jack was much faster. He punched the terrorist in the throat before grabbing and easily twisting both of his arms, breaking them in the process. I don't make deals with terrorists. Also, You can never give me what I want because what I desire has to be earned, not given. He replied with a snort before letting the unresponsive body of the terrorist drop to the ground from his hold. Inner base secured. Lucas finally reported after making sure that there was no more active threat in the room while lightly pressing the earpiece on his helmet as he breathed heavily. Send in the extraction team. Copy that, Captain. Also, we found what seems like a small indoor plant research garden. They seem to be growing some sort of unique plant in here, probably to manufacture drugs. We are moving in to secure samples from it. The guy from the other end responded within a second. Do it quickly and secure everything you collect from here in isolation boxes, only we have orders to send them to the boss directly without alerting the military in any way. He warned in a commanding voice. Anyway, good work everyone. Jack congratulated over the comms, his voice becoming more light-hearted. Once everything is secured, bag the bodies and set the high-density explosive charges. Our mission will be accomplished once we destroy any and all traces of this godforsaken terrorist hideout. After that, we can return to base. As the soldiers in the Alpha team of the colony completed their assigned tasks and prepared for extraction, they unknowingly released a small exhale of relief they were holding back in their chests after finally getting the confirmation that they had succeeded in the very first mission of their lives while working for their new employer. Bat Cave under Wayne Manor, Gotham. Bruce Wayne POV. The answer is still no, Ace. I am not going to build bone-shaped plasma grenades for you. And I am definitely not going to build machine guns that can shoot hairballs for your little cat friend. I can be considered somewhat of a mad scientist by now, but I am not that mad. I answered my pet dog while trying to fix the new hard-light hologram generating machine that I was trying to build in my bat cave. Woof woof, Ace barked in apparent sadness as he struggled to let go of the idea. I didn't even know why he wanted such weird weapons in the first place. In his own words, he is trying to pacify the animal underworld of Gotham and bring peace among all species of animals or something. Of course, he was just exaggerating stuff. I have given him and Miss Whiskers a few self-defense gadgets over the years to protect themselves from danger, so he was probably expecting me to fold like I always do, but there was no way I could in good consciousness ever let them near plasma grenades. Giving a dog and a cat weapons of mass destruction is where I draw the line to pampering my pets. I actually get it. They probably just want to play with me and Selena more since we are always busy most of the time, but surely, I could find much better toys and games for them than plasma grenades, jetpacks, or even hairball shooting machine guns. Sir, if I may interrupt your important conversation with your pet dog, I have come across some important pieces of information that you should know of. Specifically, I have 2 pieces of good news and 1 slice of bad news for you. Which one would you like to hear first, sir? Cortana asked, interrupting my conversation with Ace. Sigh the good news, I guess. First, the Alpha platoon succeeded. They even found some interesting stuff in the base which they will be sending over to the cave. Second, the British government accepted Alfred's deal. They will be transferring his daughter to Gotham permanently, and even allow her to become a US citizen if she wants. Cortana revealed. Of course, most of them have no idea that she is the daughter of the Queen and thus the Princess of the UK. So, it will be better if we keep it that way. Okay, got it. That was quick, by the way. These discussions can even take months at a time. But again, Alfred is really good at these types of things. He is a master negotiator with that hot British accent of his. It's not a surprise he pulled this off so easily. I praised my extremely efficient Giga Chad of a combat butler. Anyway, so what's the bad news? She will be assigned here with a mission to protect you, the multi-billionaire genius Bruce Wayne, as your personal bodyguard from any future assassination attempts. This has been approved by both the UK and US governments. So you will have to let her protect you for the next few years. At least until the guys in the UK forget about her and the US government officially accepts her citizenship. Damn my independent life. Bruce Wayne POV. Upon learning of Alfred's return from Europe, I was eager to speak with him. Although I had consented to his daughter, Julia Pennyworth, serving as my new official bodyguard, I still didn't like the idea of her following me around everywhere all the time. I initially assumed she would just be my bodyguard in title only, but according to Cortana, Julia was to take her protective role quite seriously if she were to remain in America, even if it was merely for the sake of appearances. So, after Cortana told me that he had gone towards the mansion's workout room, I went straight there to clear things up. Hey Alfred, Cortana told me that you are working out here. I needed to talk with you about something important. Oh shit, I am so sorry, I should have knocked. I almost panicked in surprise after noticing that rather than Alfred doing old man yoga exercises in the room as I had expected, it was instead a young blonde girl working out in tight yoga clothes. Bruce Wayne, you are finally up. And please, you don't have to be sorry for entering your own workout studio. As a matter of fact, I am the one who should be sorry for using this place without permission. Forgive me for that. Honestly, I wanted to join my post as your bodyguard the moment I came here, but Alfred told me that you were sleeping in your room and wouldn't be waking up anytime soon. He showed me to my room and left to prepare some food for me, but I wasn't feeling tired enough to sleep. So I then decided why not survey the mansion to see if it needed any extra safety measures. But then I came across this mini gym/yoga room and thought, why not use my free time to work out a little bit? Julia Pennyworth, Alfred's only daughter, spoke up in a mildly anxious voice, probably nervous that her actions might have resulted in her getting fired on the very first day of her job. Oh, I see. So, Alfred told you that I was sleeping? Very well then, you can continue working out. I'll leave you to your devices. I needed to talk to Alfred anyway. By the way, enjoy your stay here, and if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask Alfred for it. I quickly tried to leave since I had no idea just how much she knew about her relationship with Alfred and the Queen of England or about my secret hobby at night. After all, how much Alfred wanted his daughter to know about his life wasn't my decision. I had already caused Alfred a lot of trouble by revealing my secret identity to Leslie, and I didn't want to do it again. By the way, I think I have been taking the aspect of keeping my secret identity a secret as almost a joke. I have been revealing my secret life to too many people. Maybe I should take this more seriously, since having my secret flushed into the public would be somewhat inconvenient for my regular life, especially if it happens this early. I thought to myself, oh no, I can't possibly ignore my duty as your bodyguard. I have researched a lot about you before coming here, Mr. Wayne. I know you are a really busy man. Times Magazine says that you work harder than any other CEO in the corporate world, with most of your time spent deciding on how to change the world for the better. In fact, now that I think about it, you must be going to one of your company meetings right now. I insist that I have to come with you too to make sure that you are well protected. After all, that's what I am here for. Julia responded with a determined and slightly excited voice, making her dedication to follow through with her job very apparent. Yeah, of course, I'm going to visit one of my companies right now to work towards changing the world and helping humanity. I couldn't help but instantly reply. As a matter of fact, a late-night meeting yesterday was the actual reason why I couldn't wake up early today. Otherwise, I would have already started working by now. I lied with a straight face, not wanting to reveal to her that I spent most of my days cooped up in my bat cave, trying to make cool stuff rather than help change the world for the betterment of human civilization. Okay then, I'll get ready and meet you at the front door in 2 minutes. Please wait for me, Mr. Wayne, she requested before rushing out of the indoor gym in a hurry. Hi, Alfred. Despite her hurry, she still didn't forget to politely greet the butler on her way out, who was patiently standing by the door with a small smile on his face. You heard everything, didn't you? Bruce asked him once Julia was out of earshot. Every single word, young master. Believe me, I could not have been happier when I heard that you were going to get out of your little cave and visit one of your companies instead. You really need the fresh air, Master Bruce. As I have told you a million times before, spending your entire youth in your basement isn't the best way for you to live your life. Alfred answered in his wise old man voice before adding, however, while I take immense pride in the transformation within you, driven by your pride and your denial of the truth to Julia, that you simply don't work that hard in your office or attend continuous meetings like other businessmen, I should still remind that, at the end of the day, she is my own biological daughter. Don't let your mind harbor any impure thoughts that even remotely suggest you can woo her. She is not that type of girl. You will be disappointed if you pursue her romantically. Alfred patted my back with a kind smile on his face. What are you talking about, Alfred? Of course, I am not going to go after your daughter. She is your daughter, for God's sake. What do you even think of me as, a horny beast whose only motive in life is to flirt with girls? Even I have limits. Also, what do you mean she is not that type of girl? Any woman who falls in love with me has the best taste in men ever, period. Your words are deeply insulting to Selena, Nissa, and Talia, you know? Just because they agreed to be part of my harem doesn't mean that they don't have standards. I criticized him, appearing visibly distraught at his blatant accusation. I am sorry if you misunderstood me, Master Bruce, but I didn't mean to say that you are not fit for my daughter. What I meant was that she will simply never be interested in you because she is only attracted to girls and is what you would call a lesbian. So unless you have a surprise down there that I don't know about, you simply aren't someone she will ever consider dating. Alfred revealed with a straight face. Wait, so you warned me because you were more concerned about me getting hurt by your daughter's rejection because of her relationship preferences rather than your daughter getting her heart broken by me? Wow, talk about winning the award for being the best bro of the year. I joked aloud. However, his words still made it clear just how biased Alfred was towards me in his judgment. In some parts of his mind, I ranked the same position as his daughter in his list of priorities, if not even higher than her, which was honestly quite flattering to hear. I don't know what you are talking about, young master. But I advise that you should get dressed in proper clothes before Julia gets down. Even though in my experience, 2 minutes is equivalent to 2 hours when it comes to women getting ready, we should still keep in mind that Julia was a soldier in the army and had served in the MI6. She probably won't take more than 10 minutes to get ready. You don't want to be late and keep her waiting now, do you? The butler warned, gesturing to the wristwatch on his hand. Sure. Just one last question. How much have you told her about my mission in Gotham, as well as the fact that you and the Queen of England are her biological parents? I asked to get our story straight and to make sure that there would be no misunderstanding later on. But just a look at his face told me that he hadn't even tried breaking the news to her. Alfred looked like he wanted to avoid the topic like a sore thumb. For a few seconds, he remained silent, organizing his thoughts, probably even making a plan in his mind on how to reveal everything to his daughter in the best manner possible. But before he could open his mouth, a sudden gasp of shock grabbed both of our attention, making us turn towards the door where Julia was now standing dressed in a black trench coat, a pair of black cargo pants, and a pair of tactical boots. "You are my absentee father?" she exclaimed with a mixture of shock and disbelief. I think I should really stop letting my guard down whenever I am at home, I thought to myself with a weak smile. Bruce Wayne POV. I still can't believe that I am royalty. During all those years in the orphanage, not even a single person from my family ever visited. I understand that my father, Alfred, didn't even know about my existence until a few days ago, but that excuse is useless for my mother, right? She could have at least sent an anonymous letter or something. I didn't need to know that my mother is the Queen of England, and my father is the right-hand man of one of the world's richest people. All I needed to know was that I at least had a mother and a father who was still alive somewhere, that I had not been abandoned. Julia lamented with a deep sigh. We were currently in my limo heading towards one of the Wayne Solutions R&D buildings in Gotham. Julia was sitting beside me with a tired look on her face, while Alfred was sitting opposite us with a face full of regret and guilt. He looked like a troubled father who really wanted to give his daughter a tight hug to comfort her, but was afraid that he would be brutally rejected. Alfred is not just my right-hand man. He is basically the person who raised me after my parents died. I corrected before placing a hand on Julia's shoulder in an attempt to soothe her. Believe me, if either of us had known you are his daughter, you would have certainly had a father while growing up. In fact, you still can. It's never too late to connect with your parents, I advised with a slightly measured voice, hoping that she wouldn't feel too pressured by the situation. Anyway, if you need some time for yourself, to clear your mind, we can turn the car around. You don't have to accompany me on my extremely busy schedule, I uttered with a sheepish smile, earning an eye roll from Alfred. No, this is my job. I was given this assignment, and even though I now know that you were the ones who arranged it, I still want to see it through. So, I will accompany you. However, I'll need some time to process this. I don't know what to feel now that I know I am not an orphan like I always thought I was. Of course, I am not going to whine and cry about it like a spoiled hormone-filled teenager, but I still need to get my thoughts and feelings in order. Julia replied, making it clear that she didn't want to continue the conversation any further for now. Of course, Julia. We are here for you, and I'll continue to be here for you until you are ready. Take all the time you need. Alfred forced a smile, opting to call his daughter by her formal name so as to not spook her. It seems neither of them wanted to rush things. They were happy to take it slow and allow their relationship to develop naturally rather than forcing it. Nevertheless, the journey that followed was mostly silent, as no one felt like talking, and frankly, I appreciated the silence, as the situation was becoming somewhat awkward. Roughly 15 minutes later, our car finally arrived at the destination, a vast complex housing numerous facilities focused on the research and development of diverse technologies and products across various fields by Wayne Solutions. The complex was deliberately located on the outskirts of Gotham City to make sure that the different types of top-secret research being conducted here stayed out of the public eye, as well as to discourage the general run-of-the-mill criminals who see vandalizing fancy buildings as a way to make a few bucks. Of course, it also had state-of-the-art security including highly trained guards, automated drones, autonomous turrets that could release sleeping gas as well as self-targeting tranquilizer guns based on AI, and facial recognition technology to protect the place from the more dangerous criminals. After all, I never liked the possibility of criminals stealing my stuff, destroying my property, or hurting my employees. Mr. Wayne, welcome to the Enclave. We are so happy that you could finally join us here. We have been expecting you to visit since the construction finished last year. Lucius Fox, my current CEO of Wayne Solutions, walked up to us with a huge smile on his face before welcoming us to the place with a small bow. I was over the moon when I first heard that you were finally visiting us. Even though I am thankful that you have not been too much of a miser when it comes to funding our projects, unlike the previous board of directors, I still need your opinion on some of the more advanced products that you want to release on the market. At the end of the day, I might be the CEO of this company, but you are still its owner, and your vision needs to align with the long-term goals of the company if you really want it to succeed, he said while shaking my hand. This was his way of subtly indicating that he was overworked and would appreciate it if I got involved in the direct management of the company more, thereby lessening his burden. Don't worry, my hard-working CEO. I trust in your judgment and am very much content with leaving my company's management reins in your capable hands. I nodded with a straight face. Also, if you are really feeling overburdened with your responsibilities, you can always hire more people, I advised with an innocent shrug. Anyway, it seems like you really love this place, so why don't you give us a small tour of this enclave and show us around? I proposed. Fine, follow me. The Morgan Freeman look-alike caved after a few moments of intensely glaring at my face before gesturing at us to follow after him. The enclave is built on a site totaling 1.46 square kilometers or 360 acres and houses more than 12,000 employees in its various buildings. Most of them focused on R&D, of course. In fact, we have too many R&D departments here to cover in a single one-day tour, so we will be visiting the more important ones who have made considerable breakthroughs in their fields. Honestly, our R&D teams are leading almost every sector and industry, with our company registering the highest number of official patents for the last 2 years. However, there are mostly 3 departments who have done things that can be considered almost game-changing. Lucius Fox explained while leading us into the biggest building of the complex. R&D means nothing when those extremely advanced products don't sell in the real world or earn revenue, Mr. Fox. Make sure to let the researchers know that they should work on stuff that is functional and will actually be useful for people. I don't want more jetpacks or exploding pens, no matter how cool they are. I reminded him after noticing a team working on an extremely huge jetpack behind one of the glass-walled labs. Don't worry, Mr. Wayne. We don't spend money unless the sales department gives us the go-ahead. Only when we get confirmation that we can actually sell the products later do we start working on their physical models. Of course, industrial and defense contracts are different. Sometimes we get commissioned to make particular stuff for our bigger customers, and since we get paid some quite hefty cash for it, we have no reason to deny it. The jetpack that you just saw was one of those designs. The CEO patiently explained. Anyway, we have reached our first destination where you will meet 2 of our best and brightest engineers/researchers, Mr. Winslow Schott and Dr. Victor Fries. Lucius Fox proudly announced, signaling towards one of the more luxurious laboratories as if they were his greatest assets. You ice prick bastard, how dare you call my wife apathetic? She is twice the woman your wife is. Have you seen just how beautiful my wife is, how well she cooks, and how kind she is? You can only dream of having a wife like her in your next life, you piece of shit. A slightly chubby ginger-haired man yelled while hitting a bald man on his head with what looked like a thick roll of documents. Are you deaf as well as stupid? I didn't call your wife apathetic, idiot. I said that your wife is as apathetic as a machine because she is literally a robot that you designed for yourself. At least, my wife is a real human being unlike yours. You took those nerds from Japan and Korea, marrying their shaboink dolls and video games to the very next level, you creep. The bald skinny man who could be identified as Victor Fries shouted back while using the knuckles of his fingers to twist the chubby man's unnaturally long nose in an attempt to get the man off of himself. She is real in my heart, which is the only place that matters, you damned bald bastard. The ginger-haired man, aka Winslow Schott, had tears in his eyes as he violently shook Victor's head like there was no tomorrow. Not again. Lucius Fox released an exhausted groan before finally marching towards the pair to break up their fight. Alfred, they are the top scientists in this company. Julia broke our awkward silence with confusion evident in her voice. It's a wonder why Wayne Solutions hasn't gone under already, she exclaimed. I guess Mr. Bruce Wayne works even harder than I originally thought, Julia muttered before nodding to herself with a look of sudden realization on her face. Bruce Wayne POV. It took Lucius about 5 minutes to stop the fight between the two scientists. Apparently, the two, although having become best friends, still didn't like it when they insulted each other's wives. Normally, they made sure to avoid talking about their marriage as it was a sensitive topic for both of them, since while Victor didn't like to be reminded about his wife's disease and his inability to help his wife despite his promise to do so, Winslow, on the other hand, had a weak spot for the love of his life who was, in fact, a robot he designed himself so that he would not have to be alone for the rest of his life and would always have someone to talk to. Yeah, Winslow Schott was the ultimate otaku NEET who designed and made his own wife after he figured that he would probably never find a good enough girl for himself. Respect to him, by the way. However, all this didn't mean that Winslow didn't love his wife. As a matter of fact, he loved his robot wife so much that he made himself forget that she wasn't human so that he could enjoy his happily married life with her as any normal couple would. As it happens, his creation was so perfect that nobody ever even doubted that his wife wasn't human, at least not until the couple invited Victor and his wife, Nora, to dinner, where Victor found out about the truth after noticing that Winslow's wife didn't bleed or get burnt even after a burning candle fell on her skin while she was serving them dinner. Victor and his wife, although initially creeped out by this, accepted it later since this wasn't the first time someone had married a non-living thing. And also, there was absolutely no difference between Winslow's wife and a normal human woman on the outside except for the fact that she didn't bleed or feel pain. However, when considering her emotions, her desires, and the love she felt for her husband, everything was as human-like as possible. Hell, even she herself almost behaved like she wasn't a robot at all, always trying her best to avoid any discussions about it, which was probably a design feature that Winslow had used when making her. Anyway, as I was saying, even though the two scientists normally tried their best to avoid sensitive topics like the difficulties in their marriage, it didn't stop them from engaging in stupid banters or useless arguments. Usually, their disputes start with minor scientific disagreements that normal people wouldn't even care about, but as the argument escalates, they often end up touching on sore subjects that they know they will regret later on. Today's argument followed a similar pattern. At last, I have finally calmed them down. To think such incredible geniuses could be so childish. I guess gifted people are never normal. Lucius Fox returned to where we were waiting after breaking up their fight, following which he released a tired sigh and gave me a look, something I didn't bother to react to. Maybe we should leave them alone for now and come back later so that they could calm down. Although I won't be passing this incident over to the HR department, I still need to have a good talk with them about their behavior in the workplace. Maybe even schedule them a couple of therapy sessions with a good shrink, he said with a serious voice. But why did they even start fighting? Considering they are the top developers of this company, and that their arguments seemed quite serious, something about their current project they are working on should be the cause for the start of this fight, right? Julia accurately guessed. Yes, Mississippi. They were indeed fighting because of their current project. You see, they are currently working on something called Project Megan, an AI doll that can not only act as a playmate to little children but also take care of them if they fall sick or get hurt. The dolls will function as caretakers, friends, nurses, babysitters, as well as therapists to children, and will effectively have the duties and responsibilities of parents. And as you advised a few months ago, Mr. Wayne, we have also started working on a more health-focused variant of the robot, as well according to the design you provided us called Project Baymax. Lucius started to explain. Their argument started due to this project when they could not decide whether they should give the doll a bright pink dress or a neon blue one. Mr. Fox revealed with a straight face. Maybe it would be best if we visited the third researcher you were speaking about, Lucius. At least, we could save ourselves a few of our remaining brain cells that way. Don't you agree, Master Bruce? Alfred finally broke the silence with a forced smile. Yes, I agree. That would be for the best, I answered as Julia also fiercely nodded her head. Fine, follow me, Lucius gladly replied, happy that he would not have to continue to deal with the two scientists right now. Also, I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell Winslow that the three of you are now aware of his wife's situation. It's a delicate matter for him. Victor and I have already given him our word that we would keep it a secret, provided that Winslow continues his monthly appointments with his therapist and marriage counselor. Of course, a gentleman, or a lady, never kisses and tells. I agreed with his request before following him to our next destination. Our next stop wasn't exactly a traditional building like the last one. Instead, it was a large two-story glasshouse connected with multiple portable laboratory cabins and an entrance to what seemed like an underground bunker. The area around this particular facility was covered with various plants and trees neatly arranged and labeled like a well-maintained garden with massive floodlights positioned all over the place at different intervals. This entire area is the Wayne Botanical Research Center. Of course, what you see in front of you isn't even 1/4 of the research center. Most of the place is actually located underground, where the researchers can control every aspect of environmental conditions and can simulate any situation for their experiments. From artificial lighting called grow lights to carefully made nutrient-rich soil and complicated irrigation systems that can control water to the milliliter, they have it all there. Fox explained. Of course, numerous ongoing pieces of research are being conducted by hundreds of researchers here, but I am sure that you are only interested in our most talented researcher out of all of them, he said with a small smile. The seal led us straight into the glasshouse where a lone woman was currently observing a small sapling with all of her focus while scribbling various readings and notes on her pad. She was so engrossed in her work that she didn't even notice us approaching and continued fiddling with the plant. Dr. Pamela Isley, nice to meet you once again. I hope that my company is treating you better than the last place you worked. I smiled, recognizing the beautiful green-eyed red-headed woman who was wearing a lab coat and a pair of glasses. She was a brilliant botanical scientist who had started working for Wayne Enterprises as an intern under a senior researcher who was trying to make some kind of bioweapon using plant pollen. After I completely bought out Wayne Enterprises, I terminated the project since it was too dangerous to be made into reality before mind-wiping every single bit of knowledge about the project from the scientist's mind. It was at this time that I met Dr. Pamela Isley. She was the most gifted botanist I had ever met in my life. After I became interested in her work, I looked more into her and found out that she used to make designer drugs to fund her college. She was a genius when it came to plants. Cortana also found out that Pamela had an abusive father who murdered her mother when Pamela was still young, for which he was sentenced to jail. But he had died under mysterious conditions after he was visited by his daughter while in jail. Some cops suspected Pamela to be the one who killed him, but there was no definite proof, and it was concluded that he had either died naturally or was poisoned with an untraceable poison that had left no proof. Of course, at this point, most would chalk her up as a criminal, but fortunately, I was not a hypocrite like most. I have learned to not judge people without knowing their entire situation. Who knows, maybe I would have done the same thing if I were in her place. Hell, I have been doing the same thing with dozens of people I have killed until now. Also, Isley was an avid environmentalist and insisted that her work should be beneficial for the environment. That was one of the reasons why she admired me so much, since my company did not shy away from spending billions of dollars every year to help the planet, while also being on the path to becoming the first carbon-neutral company in the next 4 years. Of course, it was mostly to please environmentalists like her, since I could always terraform Earth to its pristine condition whenever I wanted, but of course, I wasn't going to reveal it to the public. Anyway, after I promoted her to the position of senior botanist in my company, she did her best to work on multiple projects to prove her capability, including a method to let plants grow at a much advanced rate, as well as perfumes filled with different pheromones to affect people's moods, both of which could be extremely useful not just as products for sale but also for some of my plans in the future. But what she was currently researching was something I personally requested from her. Oh, Mr. Wayne. What a surprise. I didn't think you would be paying me a visit after what happened the last time we physically met, Pamela said with a small blush creeping up her cheeks. Just for the record, I am still sorry for what I did. A couple of months ago, when she had first pitched her pheromone project to me, she had tried using it on me as a demo to prove its capability. According to her theory, I should have been aroused and attracted to any woman in front of me because of the pheromone perfume, but quite contrary to her expectations, when she tried to use the opportunity to kiss me on my lips, not only didn't I allow it, but also made it quite clear that I was not at all affected by the pheromones. After all, no pheromone in the world could affect my enhanced physiology. Following that incident, she could never help but get extremely embarrassed and blush whenever I appeared in front of her. Well, I quite liked what happened last time, Dr. Isley. Your project was extremely beautiful. In fact, your demonstration was so good that I still dream about it, you know. I teased her with a smile. Why, yeah, right. Anyway, it's good that you are here. I needed to ask you something. She quickly tried to change the topic, while ignoring the other 3 people standing in the room. Where the hell did you get this plant from? This desert rose, as you call it, is like some sort of universal panacea that can cure almost any disease it encounters. It's almost magical. Except it isn't, she remarked while picking up the small sapling in front of her. If your theory is right, and if we can somehow integrate its effects in the enhanced Xenobots you provided me with, then we can permanently cure every disease, condition, or ailment that mankind has ever seen with just a single remedy. She exclaimed. Not just men but animals, birds, and even plants. There will be nothing in this world that we can't cure. Maybe we can even cheat death with this. Cheating death won't be that easy, but yeah, we will definitely be one step closer, I responded as I stared at the plant that the Alpha Squad of my colony had recovered from one of the black sites of the terrorist organization called the Many Arms of Death. Honestly, replicating the plant from its genetic material was much harder than doing the same with other plants, but it wasn't impossible for someone like me. So, after I found out about its miraculous medicinal effects, I sent a batch of saplings straight to Pamela for further research, since I was already hard-pressed with different projects of my own. I even sent her some of my new experimental Xenobots, as well to see if she could combine the 2 projects. These Xenobots, instead of being cultured from normal cells, had small trace amounts of Compound V in them, as in Compound V from the Boys universe. I was originally developing Compound V for my next upgrade, but after finding out that it could also affect plants and animals besides humans, I have been trying to find out if I could replicate some of its effects without making people superhumans. Xenobots mixed with Compound V was one such attempt. Of course, the Compound V in the Xenobots was in such trace amounts that neither Pamela nor any other genius would ever have been able to figure out its composition. Hell, it wasn't even enough to give people powers or superhuman abilities. All it could do was just slightly strengthen the Xenobots' capability and increase their lifespan. But still, one could only wonder what they would be able to achieve once combined with the healing attributes of the Desert Rose. Would the result become the most effective medicine in the world on par with something like the mythical elixir of life, or would it be something completely different and unexpected? Well, whatever the result, I am pretty sure that at the end of the day, I'll be the one who would ultimately benefit from it. Halley's Circus, Gotham Park Row, Bruce Wayne POV. Please, can you make some room for us to walk, ma'am? We would be thankful if you could move out of our way and make some space for us, Julia politely requested in her slightly British accent while gesturing at one of the overenthusiastic reporters trying to interview me to step aside from before us. However, if anyone could see her face right now, they would be able to understand just how annoyed she truly was at the reporters as they were almost shoving her away to get closer to me, Helena, and Vicky. You know, Julia, maybe you should just let them do what they want. All this makes me feel like some wannabe celebrity who considers themselves above the rest of the common filth, and thus acts like an important and busy person in front of their fans. Perhaps the reporters will leave if I answer a few of their questions, I said, not at all believing the words coming out of my mouth, since I knew very well that these reporters were out for blood, especially now that they have seen me with 2 extremely beautiful women by my side. They were most definitely going to do their very best to turn the situation into some sort of playboy trying to have a threesome by wooing 2 women at the same time kind of situation. Which, if I were to be completely honest, wouldn't be a bad way to end tonight. Anyway, the fact that Helena was the only living daughter of the person who was one of the most well-known and influential people in Gotham until a few years ago, while Vicky was the most famous news anchor and reporter in the city, was only cream on top. You know very well that's not true, Bruce. These reporters might look and act desperate for an interview here, but that is only because they are a bunch of sharks who have now gotten the smell of a hot scoop. You absolutely can't and won't give an interview here until we get it properly discussed and cleared through PR. Officially, we are here for a charity event and to show that Bruce Wayne has a humane side too, which will be published tomorrow in all newspapers and news media that your company controls, not to create a scandal. Vicky aggressively whispered into my ears, warning me before adding, God, I knew I shouldn't have come with you. Why the hell didn't I think that if you were seen with 2 different women by your side at the same time, it could evolve into a major problem? Gosh, I am an idiot. I am getting a massive headache just thinking about all the work I would have to put in later to clear this up. Yes, I agree with Miss Vale here. Plus, being surrounded by a bunch of reporters during the entire duration of the show will not be very much aligned with security protocols. So, please let me do my job, Bruce, Julia softly said, agreeing with Vicky before signaling to the 4 colony bodyguards behind me who were now temporarily under her orders to create a perimeter around me. Hopefully, the circus officials will be enough to stop these reporters once we enter the tent. I am really hoping that they didn't buy tickets in advance. Oh, the cringe, I sighed as I saw my bodyguards shielding the three of us from the reporters and their flashing cameras as we walked into the large circus tent at the center of the park. Security for you, ha ha ha. If only you could be killed so easily by common hitmen. Killing you would be harder than assassinating the president. Even now, the three of us are wearing emergency force field generators embedded in our rings that according to you can save us from military-grade explosives. She chortled like she was high on drugs. Also, it's almost laughable that we have to worry about things like public image, now that we have grown up. I think you need to work harder on getting your guys in the government if you want to declare polygamy legal, Bruce. Otherwise, I am not sure how you are going to marry so many girls without being labeled as a serial womanizer. Helena whispered into my ears, giving her own 2 cents with a wry smile on her face. By the way, we should move fast considering that Bruce is the guest of honor here. The show is going to start any second and I do not want to miss the performance of the acrobats. I heard they are the best in the country. Helena was right. None of us wanted to miss this. Halley's Circus was one of the few remaining circuses in the country, and considering that we had never seen an actual circus, all of us were pretty excited, especially me, since this was going to be my first circus in both of my lives. In fact, this was the only reason why I even accepted when the owner of the circus requested me as its guest of honor. Halley would be able to get some publicity for his circus because of my popularity, while I would be able to enjoy an evening. Of course, I intended to donate some money to the show too if it impressed us enough, while Vicky was planning on writing a couple of articles about the amazing circus and the equally amazing billionaire who loves to support such a circus. Win-win baby. Mr. Wayne, Mississippi. Vale and Mississippi. Bertinelli, welcome to our little circus. It's a pleasure for all of us to host 3 of the most well-known people in the city of Gotham. Thank you very much for accepting our request to be the guest of honor. Please, let me kindly guide you to your seats. They are the best in the house. Mr. Halley, who honestly looked quite stressed, said after hurriedly receiving us at the entrance, while gesturing for the groundkeepers to stop the reporters and close the entryway. It's a pleasure for us to be here, Mr. Halley, and please don't let our presence here distract you or your performers. Treat us just like you would treat the rest of your viewers. We are nothing special, just richer than most. I joked with a smile on my face while shaking the man's hands to relieve him from some of his stress before following after him toward our seats. So how long will the performance be, Mr. Halley? I was hoping to talk to some of your employees after this for my article and show tomorrow. Vicky asked while bringing a small digital camera out of her bag that also functioned as a voice recorder. It will last about an hour and a half with the acrobatics performances and the tightrope walk scheduled at the latter half of the circus. He answered while handing her a small poster that contained a list of all the scheduled performances. And yes, of course, you can talk with the performers. They will be happy to answer any questions you have about the circus. However, it seems that you will be meeting one of our performers even before we start. He said with a slightly confused look. Dick, what are you doing here sitting on the seat for the guest of honor? Don't you have to prepare for your performance? He grimaced at a boy of about 12 years who was sitting on one of the slightly larger empty chairs at the very front of the audience row. Hey, Mr. Halley. Sorry, I was bored, so I was wandering about. And no, I won't be performing today. I got a little hurt in my knees during practice, so Mom and Dad changed the routine for today's events. They will be performing their special duo act instead of our family act. The kid named Dick revealed with a slightly embarrassed look on his face like he was regretting getting hurt. The boy was dressed in a tight but brightly colored costume that looked like it was designed to attract attention. He was really young, but even at that age, a trace of naturally growing muscles could be seen beneath his costume, making it apparent that he was one of the regular performers of the show. He even had a half mask covering his face to generate an additional sense of intrigue in viewers. I see. Sigh. Mr. Halley released a frustrated sigh as he turned towards us with a pale face. This is Richard Grayson, or as we all fondly call him, Dick Grayson. He is a member of the Flying Graysons, our most famous act. Normally, he is a part of the act as well, but I assure you that the show will be just as entertaining without him. His parents have been doing this from way before he was even born. Mr. Halley tried to reassure us. Of course, we have no doubt about it. Helena was the one who answered while pinching the boy's cheeks. She loved children, maybe because they reminded her of her own childhood that got ruined years ago the night her family got slaughtered. Since he won't be participating in the circus, maybe he can sit with us and tell us more about all the performances. I am sure he has a lot of interesting facts to tell us about this circus. What do you say, Dick? She proposed. "Yeah, sure." The little performer agreed without a single hint of hesitation, happy that he would not have to get bored while sitting alone. "Yes, that would be great. Dick can tell you all about our circus, and I am sure he only has good things to say, don't you, Dick?" Mr. Halley gave the kid a pleading look at which Dick only chuckled and nodded his head. Dick Grayson? Where have I heard that name before? I thought to myself as I tried to remember. Normally, I had an eidetic memory, but that only worked with the knowledge I gained in this universe. As for memories of my previous life, I always had trouble remembering them for some reason. That's why I started keeping them hidden in my memory library in the first place, so that I could not only protect them from prying eyes, but also easily recall them whenever I needed them. So I immediately began to comb through those memories, trying to draw from my limited pool of DC lore knowledge about who Dick Grayson was supposed to be. And then after a few seconds of intense thinking, I finally remembered that name from one of the live-action shows and an old Batman movie I had once watched. "You are Robin?" I could not help but ask aloud. "Oh yes, that is my stage name. Or well, at least that's what my parents call me. I am the Flying Robin." The kid answered with excitement as he went on to proudly talk about his parents, who according to him were the best trapeze performers in the world. Bruce Wayne POV. The decision of whether to let someone die or not is probably the hardest decision anyone could ever make in their lives, especially if the person in question is innocent. Honestly, killing criminals is quite easy when one has made up their mind to do it. But letting a couple of innocent people die for some greater good? Now, that was a completely different question, one that I was not ready to face yet. Unfortunately, this was the decision I faced at the moment. Should I allow Dick's parents to perish as the plot originally intended, enabling Dick to become a vigilante, or should I intervene and save them, therefore completely changing the future? Honestly, if this was any other innocent couple, I wouldn't have hesitated to save them at all. But this was Dick Grayson's parents, the same kid who had almost as much plot armor as the original Batman. Fated to become the vigilante named Robin, he would one day defeat dozens if not hundreds of villains, save thousands of people, and maybe even help fend off some apocalyptic-level threats as Batman's protege. But like most other superheroes or vigilantes, he could only become his alter ego if and only if he becomes an orphan, because according to shitty comics logic, only by losing everything can one truly realize their full potential. Of course, I had no wish to orphan a kid just because I wanted some help in protecting the world. But Dick Grayson was someone who was supposed to have an extreme amount of plot armor, second only to Batman himself. Plus, I could deduce that he was extremely talented in gymnastics and acrobatics, while possessing an excellent physique, which automatically made him a good choice as a vigilante. If I were to make him my sidekick, he would no doubt be able to effectively handle a lot of threats for me. Threats that could prove to be tricky even for me. "Hey Bruce, are you watching the show? You didn't laugh even once at the clowns despite how funny they were." Vicky lightly elbowed me, breaking me out of my reverie. Of course, I am watching the show. It's just that I am laughing on the inside rather than on the outside. I responded with a straight face. "Oh, okay," Vicky responded while suspiciously narrowing her eyes at me. "By the way, Dick, when are your parents going to perform?" she asked, looking at the kid who was doing his best to loudly cheer every performer who was coming on the stage to perform. "They will be doing their act right after Charlie finishes his juggling trick," he answered, gesturing at the overly fat clown who was effortlessly juggling 10 bowling pins at once while riding a unicycle that looked tiny when compared to his body. In fact, if you look at the roof, you will see that they have already finished setting up the wires for their flying trapeze performance. Trapeze? Wait, didn't his parents die during their circus performance or something? But it would be too much of a coincidence if they passed away on the exact day I decided to attend their show. Wouldn't it? These thoughts crossed my mind as I examined the trapeze rigging overhead. Not wanting to leave anything to chance, I activated my transparent world ability, and as soon as I did, the world seemed to slow down around me before my vision sharpened and focused on each and every wire and rope swinging from the roof. The entire mechanism of how the trapeze was going to work was laid bare in front of my eyes. I could not only make out every single wire but also how they were interconnected with each other to form the complex web that would enable the Grayson couple to safely perform their acrobatic moves without any fear of accidents or worse, death. At least, that was what the wire rigging was supposed to be like. But strangely, I noticed something I was not expecting. A single rope connected to both the trapeze bars was slightly sagging, looking a lot looser than the others. To the eyes of a common man, this would not even be worth noticing, but my ability clearly showed me just how dangerous this was. That rope had to be tight to be able to efficiently balance the weights of both performers. Otherwise, both would unavoidably fall to their horrifying death sometime during their performance. So the fact that the rope was not secured firmly meant that either this was a very serious accident, or someone had deliberately loosened or cut the rope to try and hurt the Grayson couple. However, the most important question here was not who was trying to hurt them, but if I should let them be hurt or not. Should I save them by alerting them of the sabotage done to their wires? Or should I just let fate take its course like it was always meant to be? Hey Dick, I heard your parents don't use safety nets, is it true? Helena suddenly asked out of nowhere. Not when they perform alone. They only use safety nets when I perform with them. My mom and dad convinced Mr. Halley to not use any safety nets by telling him that the risk would attract more people that way. But the truth is that they are just too good as acrobats to consider using nets or cushions. Even though they are really humble as human beings, they are still quite prideful when it comes to displaying their talents. Dick gave a wry smile while explaining. He looked like he was very proud of his parents, with his chest boasting in pride whenever he talked about their acrobatic skills. I can understand that. Everyone has at least some amount of pride in them when it comes to their skills and talents. But what I find surprising is that your circus is still struggling when it comes to making money. With such amazing talents and incredible performances, this should already be one of the best circuses in the country. Helena exclaimed with a curious look on her face. It is. All of our shows are hits. At least in the sense that we never have an occupancy rate of below 50%. Our cross-country tours every year are always successful, even though we can't perform some of our stunts that use animals in the states which restrict using wild animals for tricks. However, a lot of the money we make is either spent on paying taxes or paying back the loan Mr. Halley took from the bank to set the circus up. I think that's why he likes to use the most flowery French words he knows when it comes to describing the bank and the government. However, what sucks up the most of our money is paying protection fees to the local criminals, especially in the city of Gotham where we perform the most frequently. Initially, Mr. Halley used to pay whatever money the gangs demanded to let us perform without any trouble, but recently most of the gangs have backed off because of Batman. Dick explained, making it sound like he was a perfectly normal adult instead of an 11-year-old kid. Oh? So would you say that Batman helped your circus? Vicky suddenly looked like she grew more interested in the conversation than she had a moment before. Yeah, of course. Me and my mother aren't such fans of Batman just because he looks cool. After he started beating up criminals like a superhero, no gang dared to ask for protection money from us anymore. Even Mr. Halley, despite being an absolute coward, grew a backbone and started denying the few gangs who tried to extort from us. In fact, even this morning, some upstart gang member named Tony Zuko tried to force Mr. Halley to pay tribute after misbehaving with Miss Alice and Miss Rhea, but my dad punched him and broke his nose while Charlie, Chucky, and Buggy beat up his men. It was amazing. I never knew my dad was so strong. Anyway, the man left while threatening that he would make sure to shut down the circus, but fortunately, I was able to throw my ice cream on his face before that. You should have seen his face. It was so red that it almost looked like it was steaming from anger. He was even shouting about how he would kill me for that, but then he ran away with his men after my dad and a few others from the circus tried to chase them down. Dick revealed while giggling in a fit, as if even the memory of it was immensely funny to him. Ha ha ha, that is funny. A crime lord reduced to such a laughingstock that even the people from a circus laugh at him. I should do an article on that sometime. It could highlight how crime lords and gangs are falling from grace after Brew. Batman started his fight against crime in Gotham. Vicky nodded with a pleased look on her face. What about you, Bruce? Don't you also think Batman is cool as hell? Vicky asked me with a playful look, probably a childish attempt to make me feel embarrassed. However, my response was quite different from her expectations. Sigh, you are right, Vicky. Batman is indeed cool. In fact, he was always supposed to be cool. He isn't just a normal guy who thinks of the greater good like me or most other people, but someone who tries his best to save every single person he can, no matter the personal consequences or difficulties he has to face later. That's what makes him a superhero, doesn't it? I mumbled to myself with a small chuckle, mildly surprising both the girls who were attentively listening to me. And don't worry, boy, I am sure Batman would take care of this Tony Zuko just like every other filth in this city. As for your parents, I think you should tell Mr. Halley to double-check the wires before their performance starts. That wire there looks awfully loose to be dangling like that. I told the little acrobat before pointing at the loose wire, which drew a shocked and horrified little squeal from him as he too recognized the fault in the wires after a few seconds of looking at the direction I was pointing. Oh, and tell your parents to follow the safety rules as well. Tell them that Bruce Wayne insisted on it. After all, safety rules exist for a reason, no matter how talented someone is. Circuses can even get sued for not maintaining safety standards. Make sure to let Mr. Halley know about this too. I uttered before signaling him to run towards the chubby circus owner to inform him about my warning, which he immediately followed without any more questions. Wait, is there really a fault in the ropes there? Is it serious? Could it have hurt his parents? Helena asked in astonishment after Dick ran away to inform Mr. Halley and his parents about the flaw. It could have killed them and made little Dick there an orphan. I calmly answered before deciding to make a joke about it to lighten the mood. But lucky for him, I don't want competition in my line of work. For now, one orphan vigilante cosplaying as a flying animal is enough for this city. August 2008. Bruce Wayne POV. Cortana, are you sure that you don't want me to oversee the change in your new looks? I mean, I get that you wish your new appearance to be a surprise, but if you just let me help, I can make sure that you turn out to be prettier than most models or actresses on the planet. I'll even keep it a secret from the others till you are ready to upload yourself into your new body. I proposed, trying my best to convince her to let me see the new looks she had chosen for herself. Normally, plastic surgery or its more complex form, biological transfiguration, aka flesh crafting, wouldn't be possible for a being as tough and indestructible as a Kryptonian through normal scientific means, but fortunately for us, red solar lamps and surgical tools made from kryptonite were immensely useful in performing surgeries on the species, something that we were immensely grateful for. Sorry, Bruce, but I have already decided on exactly how I want my new body to look, and it will be a surprise for everyone, including you. However, what I can tell you is that it is somewhat similar to my current teenage appearance, and you can regard it as my adult form. Also, I think my new appearance might be quite familiar to you. After all, it was inspired by one of the few memories of yours that you allowed me to see. She answered with a teasing smile. Inspired by one of my own memories, huh? I wonder whose appearance it is that she was inspired by. I mused to myself with a curious raise of my brows. It has been a few months since I started helping Cortana with her new synthezoid body. Initially, I thought it would only take me a few weeks to do this, but it turns out that bending the laws of life according to one's wishes isn't exactly quantum science. It was much harder than quantum science and a lot more time-consuming too. In fact, at the pace this was going, we would be lucky if we could finish the project by the end of the year. Of course, I hadn't stopped being a vigilante during this time as well. I have been clearing the streets of all the minor gangs and criminals who have been trying their luck to make a name for themselves in Gotham's criminal underworld. Most of them weren't the supervillain type and were just doing it because they either thought it was cool or because they needed some money. However, there were a few people who were genuinely evil and wanted to harm others. But those criminals, along with the psychotic ones, all either permanently ended up in a hospital or died under mysterious conditions, while the ones who were just desperate and were only committing minor crimes because they had no other way to fill their stomachs often found themselves being offered jobs from Wayne Enterprises or sometimes even fully paid scholarships in colleges from one of my foundations. The only major gang that was still more or less able to grow unhindered was Black Mask's gang, and the major reason they were able to grow or operate without any major difficulties was because I allowed them to do so. Except for some pruning here and there, I made sure not to touch them in order to fatten them up for later. Only when the gang had grown enough to be considered the #1 dominant underworld gang in Gotham would I start my real plan, the plan to take over Gotham's criminal underworld directly under me. And quite fortunately, I would not have to wait long before I start implementing the strategy which I plan to do after the 2008 economic recession starts. By the way, Cortana, what about Project Midas? Since we have already concluded that the mortgage market is going to crash almost as early as next month, I hope you have already taken all the positions we discussed, right? I asked as I looked up the dangerously increasing mortgage prices on the computer. I have, sir. As you instructed, we have been using the Gotham Merchants Bank you bought to purchase massive CDS contracts on the riskiest tranches of mortgage bonds. We are probably the biggest buyer of CDS contracts in the US right now. Of course, there are a few other investment firms like Scion Capital who are doing the same thing, but they are doing it on a much smaller scale. We will make 100 times our investment, whereas they will only make 10 to 20 times. Plus, I have also taken short positions on various mortgage bond securities, especially the ones which according to my algorithm will fall the hardest during the crash. We will be able to increase our investments by 20 to 40 times if we succeed, which we surely will. Moreover, since Wayne Enterprises is a private company owned completely by you, I was also able to use company funds to take short positions on various stocks, futures, and commodities like oil, aluminum, and copper. We will be making tens of billions from stocks like Freddie Mae, Fannie Mae, Citigroup, AIG, General Motors, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and Lehman Brothers alone, even more if they go fully bankrupt. Cortana dutifully answered. Honestly speaking, making money from a recession or a financial crisis was something I didn't really want to do, since I knew that most of the money I would be making from the crash was being taken out of the pockets of the common people. I knew that the crash would result in a lot of them losing their homes and jobs. Hundreds of companies would go bankrupt. Thousands of families would fall into poverty, while the more desperate people wouldn't even shy away from committing suicide if it meant escaping the financial nightmare that was the 2008 crash. However, despite all that, I was still going to profit from the crisis, since I knew that even if I didn't, someone else would. Money doesn't just disappear from financial markets. Every single cent that gets wiped out in a crash always goes to someone else's pockets. And since this crash wasn't something that I could just stop by myself, it would be better if that pocket was mine rather than someone else's. At least, that way I would be able to do some good with that money later. Also, the ones who would get the most hurt from the mortgage crisis and the stock market crash were the banks, at least before they get bailed out by the government. And everyone knows that you never trust or pity a bank. Since we estimate that the mortgage market is going to crash as early as next month, we will probably be getting our investments back from the mortgage bonds and CDS contracts first. We can further use that money to bet against various currencies and more stocks later. By the end of 2008, we will be able to make $500 billion this way, which will balloon to $800 billion by 2009. Cortana continued to explain. However, I can effectively double this amount if you authorize the use of the God's Eyes algorithm. Even making $2 trillion by the end of 2009 won't be far-fetched that way. Wayne Enterprises will legally become the richest company in the world, and you will have your claws so deep into the global economy that no government will ever dare to antagonize you without risking an economic or an actual war. My cute digital secretary did her best to bait me into agreeing with her. Cortana, you know very well how I feel about using that algorithm. It is meant to be used as a final resort kind of thing, not to make money from the stock market. I understand that you feel the most confident in being able to help me when you get access to the power that the algorithm gives you, but you have to understand my worries about it too. You never use a power that you aren't 100% sure you can protect from others. Also, I already don't like the fact that I am basically cheating my way to unfairly make money from a stock crash, but now, you are advising me to use the algorithm as well. That would not just be overkill, but almost like stealing from people and corporations all over the world. I complained. I was ready to cheat my way into making money, but stealing from normal people was a line I wanted to cross. I am not telling you to steal from normal people. Look, I still don't have hard proof, but the way the market is behaving is very weird. It almost seems like someone or some organization is manipulating things from behind the scenes. I have tried to dig deeper into this, but there are no paper trails, and everywhere I look is a dead end. The entire thing is pitch perfect, like the market followed a script to get to where it is today and nobody noticed, which is even more suspicious. I can't say for sure if the mortgage market is being manipulated or not, but if it is, I haven't been able to figure out who they are or what their true goal is. Regardless of whoever it is, they were either trying to profit from the artificial ballooning of the markets like a bunch of idiots, or they carefully engineered this entire situation so that they can make money when the mortgage market crashes, because when that happens, the rest of the financial markets around the world will be falling one after the other like dominoes. However, if you just let me use God's eyes, I will be able to use the extra processing power to figure out exactly who these people are and what they truly want, while also making you a few extra couple of $100 billion along the way. She revealed in the tone of a spoiled kid who was negotiating for candy to do her job. Well, I guess even AIs can get addicted. Fine, we will see what to do when it comes to it. Once the market crashes, whoever is behind this will definitely try to make their move. You can use the algorithm to look into it then. For now, just focus on holding our positions and monitoring all market activity. I can't allow any mistakes. After all, this type of opportunity only comes once in a decade. If something goes wrong, my multi-billionaire status might get downgraded to a millionaire one, and if that happens, I'll have to work for weeks to become a billionaire again. I sighed while tiredly stretching my body. Got it, sir. Oh, and you might want to get ready for your date with Mississippi. Nissa tonight. You two will be going to a fundraising charity auction where you can impress her, do charity work, and get dinner, all at the same time. Believe me, with how much she has been preparing for this date with you, you don't want to keep her waiting. Wait, You do remember you have a date today, don't you? Cortana questioned with a deadpan. Of course I do. And even if I didn't, I still wouldn't be worried since I have you, my beautiful, perfect, hard-working secretary who never lets me down. Thank you for your hard work, Cortana. I praised her, hoping that she didn't catch my lie about remembering the date. Q, greater than over equal to less than over equal to Q, Cortana. Leland's Auction House, Gotham. Bruce Wayne POV. Hey Bruce, don't you think these rich people are extremely rude? That woman wearing the cashmere scarf almost killed a poor server just because he dropped a few drops of champagne on her heels, and yet nobody tried to help the poor guy until you stepped in. These people are exactly what rich people are shown to be like in cliché movies. It's quite shocking how different you are when compared to them. Nissa shook her head with a look of disgust on her face. You are right, Nissa. They are rude, but that is because most of these people are millionaires, not billionaires. Normally billionaires are a lot more PR trained, and they make sure to keep their real personalities a secret from the public, especially if they are self-made. But most of the people here aren't self-made billionaires. They are either assholes who inherited their wealth from their family without ever bothering to learn about basic manners, or they are just a bunch of nouveau rich who succeeded in landing a hefty bonus after buttering up their asshole bosses, and thus now consider themselves superior to the rest of humanity because of their measly millions. I replied in a single breath. Honestly, I feel bad for them, well at least for their parents, because more than half of them are going to get bankrupt within the next decade, while the rest who don't improve themselves will have their true faces revealed to the wider world once the age of social media truly flourishes. I concluded with a shrug. You sound like you don't like them as well, Nissa giggled while adjusting the red dress she was wearing. Although the dress was quite modest, only accentuating her curves in the right places while tastefully highlighting her figure, making her stand out at the auction, she still appeared to be quite uncomfortable in it. This discomfort may have either been because she wasn't accustomed to wearing dresses due to her life as an assassin, or perhaps because of the way some of the perverted old men kept stealing glances at her every now and then. I don't. There are a few good apples among them, of course, but most of the rich in Gotham are just corrupt elite filth that wants to suck the city dry. I swear, it's almost like this city is cursed. Even the Wall Street guys from New York are probably more empathetic than these bastards. I muttered while smiling and nodding at one of the rich couples who raised their glasses in my direction in greeting before quickly leading Nissa toward our seats. Do you actually know any of them? I mean, they all seem to recognize you, and some of them even look like they are afraid of you. Most of the rich women have been trying to hit on you even in front of their husbands, while the men are doing their best not to even look in my direction to avoid offending you. And as for the ones who weren't able to resist looking at me, they are staying at least 20 feet away from us. As far as I am aware, you never did anything scary as Bruce Wayne, nor have you yet shown the world what you are truly capable of. So the question is, why are they so scared of you? She curiously wondered aloud. Money. It can be used to grab people's attention as well as scare them. You see, the people who have money know what money can buy in this world. They are very much aware of how easily I could make their lives a whole lot harder with the help of my wealth if I ever wished to. That's why the people who think that we will never get along are making sure to stay away from me. They don't want to make an enemy that they are going to regret later on. As for whether I know them or not, of course I don't. I have an eidetic memory. I am not going to waste that on remembering the faces of these shitheads. I sneered before noticing a familiar face walking towards us, a face that shouldn't be in Gotham. However, I do unfortunately remember his bald, ugly mug. I groaned as Lex Luthor approached me with an annoying smirk plastered on his face, followed by another woman wearing a business suit and a pair of cat-eye spectacles that seemed to be his new secretary. Honestly, I was quite surprised at his appearance in Gotham, since most of his companies had almost next to no presence in this city. But I was sure of one thing now. If Lex Luthor is here to attend this auction, it means that there are going to be some very interesting items available for the auction today. Bruce Wayne, what a surprise. I never thought I would meet you in an auction of all places. Shouldn't you be attending some circus or orphanage? But then again, this place is a good way to spend your parents' money, isn't it? He snorted pompously before turning his attention towards Nissa, not even waiting for me to respond to his words. And who is your beautiful friend? Some supermodel on your payroll for the night, he asked, raising one of his eyebrows. I am Nissa Algal, a businesswoman from Dubai. Me and my sister run hotels and some other service-based businesses. Renting ourselves is not one of them, though. However, I have heard that LexCorp has always excelled in that sort of business, especially when your mother used to be involved in running the company, Mr. Luthor. Nissa calmly retorted, not at all bothering to give a reaction to Lex, who was trying to imply that she was a prostitute I hired with my money. You know, Lex, sometimes I wondered if you were still the same jerk I met all those years ago in Smallville. I thought that perhaps you were just a little boy and could change for the better as you grow old. But it seems that there is no cure for being a prick. Hell, your bald head looks like a small prick, so I guess even the world is acknowledging you as a jerk. I mocked with a straight face, earning a giggle from Lex's secretary standing behind him. You too will regret talking to me like that. I'll make sure of it. Lex threatened after a few seconds of gritting his teeth before turning around to leave. As for you, Mercy, stop embarrassing me by giggling like a fool. He uttered in anger as he returned to his own seat since the auction was about to start. Sigh, it was funny. The girl standing behind Lex, who had been observing the two of us till now, mumbled before diligently following after her boss. He wants to buy something from this auction, something so unique that made him come to Gotham all the way from Metropolis. I surmised before opening the auction brochure we were all given when entering the auction house. The brochure contained a list of all the items that were to be auctioned tonight, and perhaps going through it could help determine what exactly Luther wanted. He is probably not here for the jewelry or the antique vases. Probably not the paintings too, since none of them are that famous. Maybe the vintage blades or the guns. Nissa guessed as she also scanned through all the items one by one alongside me. Maybe. But I can only see 3 items worth the effort of his trip. One is this 300-year-old executive desk from India that miraculously doesn't even have a single scratch on it. The second is a pair of red earrings that were made from some unknown red crystals about 700 years ago, and the third is a vintage rifle made by some famous crazy gunmaker named John Winchester. Apparently, it was his last creation, and he used it to kill his entire family before taking his own life. I listed the items that caught my attention. That thoughtful look on your face tells me you are not planning something nice. Wait, are you going to buy those 3 things yourself to prevent Luther from getting his dirty paws on them? She asked, finally realizing that I was planning to take some revenge against Luther. I don't care what he wants or why he wants it. All I know is that I don't want him to get it, and I have enough money to make sure of that. In fact, now that I think about it, it has been a long time since I have actually splurged my money on something excessive. This auction should be a good way to do that. I think I can make use of all the items on this list if I were to buy them. Bruce Wayne POV. Once again, thank you ladies and gentlemen for attending today's auction. Before we start today's bidding war, I must remind you all that this is a friendly charity auction. All the items here tonight have either been donated by various museums or private collectors all over America, and half of the proceeds from this auction will go straight to charity, divided among 10 different reputable charitable foundations. Okay, now that we have got that out of the way, we can finally start with the first item in our collection tonight, which is item No 1A, an imperial pearl necklace set worn by the Emperor of China, Yongzheng of the Qing dynasty, who ruled from 1722 to 1735. Of course, further detailed information can be found in our brochure. Bidding will start from $500,000. You can place your bids now. The auctioneer announced as if he was the host of some grand reality show. $2 million, I declared, not even bothering to use the bidding paddle required for bidding. I knew the minimum bid increment was $100,000, but I didn't have the patience to haggle. So, I just started with an amount I thought was high enough for most bidders here not to even consider spending on a single pearl necklace. $2.5 million. Someone else tried to outbid me, but the host couldn't even get the chance to acknowledge the bid before I instantly fired back with a $3 million, not even a second later. Do I have a $3.1 million? Anyone? $3.1 million? No one? Okay then, $3 million going once. $3 million going twice. $3 million going thrice and sold to Mr. Bruce Wayne over there, the host announced in a joyful mood. And then next in line tonight, we have a painting by the famous painter. The auctioneer moved on to the next item. Hey Bruce, I thought the auction was for the ultra-rich, yet the first item only sold for $3 million. Also, nobody even tried to outbid you too seriously. Are you sure that this is supposed to be a high-profile auction for expensive stuff? Nissa whispered in my ears as if she just found the bid boring. That was just the first item, Nissa, and the first item is always the cheapest. Most people are here for the more expensive and valuable stuff, which will be shown at the last phases of the auction. You would probably see a much harsher bidding battle then, especially for those 3 unique antiques that I told you about. I whispered back with a light shrug, which led to Nissa just accepting my words with a nod and focusing her attention back on the bidding. Meanwhile, the auction proceeded uninterrupted. Approximately 21 items were slated for sale at the event, and the affluent attendees were eager to acquire at least one of them to maintain their reputation as Gotham's elite, since the inability to secure one could cast doubt on both their wealth and social standing. However, unfortunately for them, they were fresh out of luck, as I was in the mood to splurge some of my hard-earned cash tonight. I relentlessly bid extravagant amounts on every item presented, outbidding all the other attendees without even the slightest bit of hesitation. I knew exactly how rich I was, and unlike most people here, I had a lot of liquid assets to use, which meant I had actual cash compared to the shares and other immovable, unsellable assets the others possessed. And the antique executive desk from India is sold again to Mr. Bruce Wayne for $90 million. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, it's like the rest of you aren't even trying. The host chuckled a little nervously while adjusting his bow tie, since he could almost feel the intimidation and angry glares the other bidders who failed to outbid me were giving him. It was the 19th bid of the night, and just like the previous bids, I had again bought the antique at a much more premium price than its market estimate, which meant that the others didn't have any other choice but to sulk at how poor they were when compared to me. However, I had to admit Lex was playing smart. He hadn't bid on anything yet, except for a painting about a fallen angel, which meant he was saving all his money and energy for the item he truly wanted, which was quite far-seeing of him. He had already realized that I was making fun of the others by outbidding them of everything, and he was letting me do it without any sort of pushback because he was hoping that by doing this, I would fall short of money when it came to bidding for the thing that he wanted. Of course, he had no idea that all this was just wishful thinking. Of course, they are trying to win, but it's clear that they just didn't want this desk as much as I did. After all, I plan to give this to my butler as his bonus this year. He really likes antique wooden furniture. I think he will put it to good use by reading the morning newspaper on it every day. I muttered loud enough for the other attendees to hear, since wanted them to feel the burn of losing to me. Of course, one might ask why. Honestly, it was simply because I was feeling petty. Now it's time to bid for one of the finest pieces of jewelry this evening, folks. A pair of scarlet red earrings that dates all the way back to the reign of Constantinople. I am sure that a lot of you want it tonight, but unfortunately, only one of you can get it, the richest one of you, that is. The auctioneer announced with a slightly sarcastic tone in his voice, trying his best to rile up everyone to get them to spend more on their bids. The bid starts from $30 million. $100 million. I declared with a huge grin, at which Nissa just shook her head with a sigh. Seems like someone is enjoying himself too much. She commented with a chuckle. I am. I love being rich. I answered back. $150 million. Lex Luthor raised his paddle too this time. It should be no surprise that I wanted to outbid him again, but before I could make a bid, Cortana's voice chimed inside my ears. Sir, before you go ahead and spend a fortune on those earrings, I should warn you that the museum which donated them is privately funded by your foundations. Also, I have scanned it and dug up a little of its history, and unlike what it might seem, this is just a mundane piece of jewelry made from a rare gemstone called pynite. It's not really that valuable since it doesn't have any use except for the fact that the gemstone used to be considered extremely rare. However, a recent digging in Cambodia has unearthed too many of those gemstone fragments for that to be considered a luxury anymore. In a couple of years, you will probably even be able to buy a low-grade pynite crystal for a few dollars. As for the reason why nobody was able to accurately recognize the crystal it was made from, it's most probably because of the latex coating done during crafting it to make it appear shinier. $200 million. Instead of stepping back because of Cortana's warning, I announced a high bid with an arrogant smirk on my face as I looked at Luthor as if I was throwing him a challenge. Of course, I had no wish to buy the piece of jewelry anymore, but that didn't mean I couldn't fool Luthor into paying an arm and a leg for a useless piece of rock. However, quite contrary to my expectations, instead of Lex Luthor, it was someone else who raised his paddle to counter my new bid. $300 million. A young man confidently stated as he challenged everyone with a look. I didn't personally know him, but a quick prompt from Cortana informed me that he was Elliot Caldwell, the founder and CEO of Caldwell Technologies. Elliot was new to the world of business, and it seemed like he wanted to make a name for himself in this town as the newest ultra-rich. That was probably the reason why he dared to go against two of the richest people in the room to buy a piece of jewelry. It was not just a bid for him, but a statement declaring that he wasn't to be ignored. $325 million. I tried to counter, but Lex quickly bid $350 million while interrupting me in the midst of my bid. Interesting. It seems that he has already started looking for unique crystals. However, if he is this annoyed for not being able to win a pair of earrings, I wonder how far I can really push him before he absolutely loses his marbles. I thought to myself, you two are quite rich, but the thing is I always get what I want, and right now, I want that jewelry, Elliot announced from his table as he once again raised his paddle. $500 million. He announced. Wow, you are really passionate about this earring, aren't you? I don't think I feel good participating in this bidding war anymore with how much you want that piece of stone. So, I'll let you have it. No need to thank me though. I smiled as I put down my paddle, signaling that I was no longer interested in bidding for the earring. My words of course irritated Elliot a little, since I made it sound like I was doing him a favor by not continuing to bid for the item, but he accepted the situation with a bitter pill since he at least won a bid in the auction, unlike most of the others here. Luther too, on the other hand, although looked a little conflicted with a deep frown on his face, he also didn't give any counterbids and just let Elliot win with a low groan from his throat. $500 million going once. $500 million going twice. Remember folks, this is the last chance to get a unique piece of jewelry like this. Do I have $501 million, anyone? No one? Fine. $500 million going thrice and sold to Mr. Elliot Caldwell over there. The host clapped as two of the presenters took the jewelry glass case to the back of the stage before bringing a long wooden rifle box and putting it on display after opening it up to show the contents to everyone. Finally, we have reached the last and most valuable item of tonight's auction, the Ace of Winchesters. A vintage gun designed by a legendary gunmaker named John Winchester about 500 to 700 years ago. This gun was not just his best, but also his final work. Some say that he made a pact with a literal demon to make such a beautiful and perfect gun at that time. Some even say that he went crazy after completing this creation of his and killed his entire family with that same gun. Also, as a lot of you might have guessed, the famous Winchester Gun Company was founded by his descendants hundreds of years later, and they have been in the arms business ever since. It is an absolute beauty and one of a kind for gun collectors all over the world. Its bid starts from a modest $100 million. The auctioneer declared while waving his hands in front of the gun display as if he were some sort of hand model. $500 million. Lex Luthor didn't even hesitate to bid more than 6 times the original asking price of the gun to secure himself a fast and easy victory. He probably chose the amount because he thought that $500 million was an amount of money I would hesitate to cough up, since I previously stopped bidding for the earrings when the bid reached near that amount. However, he had no idea just how wrong he was. But before I make my offer, it would be better for me to let the others fight it out first, since it looks like a lot of people still have some fight left in them for the gun. I mean, this is America after all. People might be divided on their opinion about gender here, but one thing every man here loves is guns. And if they don't, they cannot even be considered men, much less true Americans. $700 million, someone yelled, breaking me out of my thoughts before another man shouted, $750 million, at the top of their lungs. Most of them were a miser till now, but suddenly they have hundreds of millions when it comes to buying a gun. Nissa snorted at the bidding war that had suddenly erupted out of nowhere. Well, what can I say? Guns are cool. I waved off like it was a matter of fact. The bidding war continued for the next 10 minutes, but Lex was adamant about buying the vintage weapon. It was clear that he was more than just passionate about it, and unlike the rest of the people there, he wasn't worried about spending too much on a useless artifact. He cared more about his plans with the gun than his money. $1.3 billion. The bald billionaire raised his paddle with gritted teeth as he angrily looked at the other bidders grow silent at the outrageous number. $1.3 billion for the Ace of the Winchesters. Do I have a higher bid? Does anybody want to bid higher? Remember, this is a one-of-a-kind gun that has never been made before. The host announced with a pleased smile on his face. This was already one of the most successful auctioning nights he had ever had in his life. $1.3 billion going once. $1.3 billion and $100,000. I interrupted the countdown with a straight face. The one who looked the most surprised by my bid was Luther himself. I could see his veins bulging on his bald head due to his anger, but he restrained himself and hid his emotions expertly at the very next moment before raising his paddle again. $2 billion. Now how about you back off and let someone else have fun for a change, Mr. Wayne? Lex Luthor almost snapped back. Oh, sorry, Lex. I was just having some fun. However, $2 billion is a lot of money. For someone like you, $3 billion. I countered. You're trying to screw me, aren't you? Lex gritted out through his teeth. It looked like he had finally run out of cash to spend. Like most billionaires, he was extremely rich on paper with billions upon billions of dollars to spend. But all that money was present as stocks in his public company, which meant he couldn't spend it as freely. He would either have to sell those shares to raise money, which would erode his control over his company, especially since his company was still not mature or sturdy enough, or he would have to take a loan from the bank by placing those stocks as collateral, which would take too much time, permissions, and paperwork. Of course not. I just want a gun for myself. I smiled as the auctioneer finally banged his fancy hammer after giving the third call. Sold once again to Mr. Bruce Wayne. He announced. Bruce Wayne POV. Maybe you should have accepted the security detail Julia offered to arrange for you instead of sneaking off like this. If news leaks out that we are currently carrying billions of dollars worth of antiques in the car trunk with us, the entire Gotham City will be on our tail. It will be quite annoying if that happens. Nyssa uttered in frustration as we casually drove towards Wayne Manor. With that look Luther gave us, I am pretty confident that he might try something underhanded to get his hands on that gun. Do you remember how he threatened that you would regret what you did to him in the auction? And he looked even more furious after you offered a job to that secretary of his to annoy him. She giggled as she remembered the billionaire's enraged face. Right now, the two of us were driving back home from the auction. Well, I was the one actually doing the driving, while Nyssa just kept reminding me about how we could be attacked by anyone anytime in our car, as well as how utterly unprepared we were to defend ourselves from a serious assault. And she would have been right too, but only if it was someone else driving the car instead of me. I, on the other hand, was fully aware of how safe we truly were in my vehicle. In fact, that was the sole reason why I was brave enough to ask the auctioneer to hand me some of the items that I wanted to take home early, like some of the interesting antiques, and the Ace of Winchester. Of course, this was against auction rules since buyers can only get their purchases after days of various security protocols that ensure the safety of both the seller and the buyer while also maintaining transparency throughout the whole transaction. But the fact was that I was filthy rich, and when faced with a hefty bribe, even the strict-faced auctioneer was more than willing enough to bend some of the rules for me, especially when I offered to buy the entire auction house. Oh, and no, I didn't do it this time because I was trying to show off my wealth, but simply because I was afraid that Lex might try to pull something unlawful to take what he wanted. So yeah, Nyssa wasn't just worrying, for no reason. Actually, she was just being cautious. The power she already had as one of the lords of the High Table made her much more of a threat than Lex Luthor when it came to connections to the criminal underworld. However, she knew that Luthor wasn't just about influence. He was also a genius scientist and extremely cunning when it came to playing dirty to get what he wanted. He would have been a terrifying enemy if it was not for his useless pride. So Nyssa's wariness was quite valid in this case, especially since Luthor really seemed to want that shotgun for some reason. However, I just casually shrugged at her words before giving her a charming smile. Don't worry, Nyssa. This car has more intricate technology and complex weaponry systems inside it than the entire Pentagon. We are completely safe in this car, even if Luthor were to launch controlled nuclear strikes against us like you are imagining. Also, both of us are enhanced humans, remember? Getting rid of both of us quietly is impossible for the low-grade weak lackeys he normally hires as his bodyguards. So just take it easy. As long as I am here, absolutely nothing can go wrong. Boom! A glowing red explosion suddenly hit the side of our car, forcing it away from the main road and slamming it into the guardrails faster than any of us could even contemplate what was happening. A huge portion of the road was also destroyed in the explosion, as well along with a major section of the guardrails we had collided against. However, despite the powerful explosion, our car barely had a few visible dents on it, which was not surprising since I had specifically made the car with radiologically inert carbonadium to make it extra durable for situations exactly like this. Still, what surprised me was that when I tried to restart the car, the vehicle didn't respond at all. The defense systems, stealth systems, or the engine, nothing was responding. Hell, not even the touchscreen controls of the car were currently functioning. It was almost like someone had managed to perfectly fry every electronic component of the car. Interesting, this is the same thing that happened with my plane too when those 3 Greek goddesses tried to... Oh shoot, it's magic! I exclaimed upon finally realizing that magic in the DC multiverse was broken beyond what I originally expected, and that this magic didn't seem to play too well with high-tech electronics and gadgets. I had used a lot of defense systems and tech protocols to protect my vehicle from almost everything that I could think of, like fire, lightning, ice, or even radiation, but I had forgotten the most dangerous weakness of all, magic. I should make a note to learn a little more about defense against the mystic arts when I get time. I need to get better at it ASAP to better protect myself against magical enemies going forward, especially since even though technology is my biggest strength, it might become one of my biggest defenses if I don't learn to shield it from mystic attacks. What was that? Nissa asked in surprise as she looked around to spot where the attack had come from. You had to jinx our smooth journey home, didn't you? She exhaled tiredly before taking out a promethium dagger and her new laser pistol from somewhere inside her dress, both of which were a courtesy to me. I don't believe in jinxes. I believe in conspiracies and plots, but never jinxes. I responded after noticing a shadowy figure slowly approaching our car from the back. Even though the silhouette looked mostly humanoid, I noticed a couple of things that indicated he was anything but human. One was the bony structure of his body that made him look too eerily tall, and the other was the fact that he had 10 hands instead of the normal 2. A meta-human hitman? Nissa asked after she too noticed the figure. More like a demon, I think. I answered as its features seemed to match some of the descriptions Giovanni Zatara had once taught me about demons from hell. But no worries. We are in luck since even though I might not be the most compatible person with mana, I still definitely remember all the exorcism rituals Zatara taught me. After all, anyone can do exorcisms as long as they put their faith in a god of any religion of their choice. And fortunately for us, I know how to exorcise demons in 20 different languages and 7 different religions. I smirked before calmly exiting the car. However, this time I think I am going to go with one of my favorite ones. Upon noticing my relaxed exit from the car, the figure came to a halt before slightly tilting his head to observe me. This in turn allowed me a clearer view of him as well, and despite the night's darkness cloaking him like a shroud, my heightened superhuman senses were easily able to perceive his appearance. Just like I expected. It was the grotesque figure of a demon, his white skeletal frame sprouting 10 slender bony arms with each of them clutching a revolver or a pistol. Bruce Wayne, the billionaire born with a silver spoon and a golden heart. Hehe, even in hell, you are quite a well-known man. There is a luxury suite booked just in your name for when you get there, and believe me you are going there, Mr. Wayne. But maybe we can help you make your life a little better before you die, make you richer, and more influential, or perhaps even help you get a girl that you always liked. How about it? Interested in making a deal with us? The demon offered with a creepy voice that honestly sounded like 2 pieces of wood being scrapped together. An interesting thing about being the richest person in the world is that there is nothing I can't get on my own, bone guy. Also, look at my face. Do you honestly think anyone will say no to this face? Plus, I already have too many hot women in my life. I am not perverted enough to make a deal with a literal demon to get even more. I snorted before suddenly becoming serious again. Now, why don't you cut the crap and tell me why you are really here? Did Luther finally snap and make a deal with a demon to one-up me or something? I asked while raising one of my eyebrows before taking a look at the gun box that was still in the back seat of my car through the side of my eye. Intelligent way of trying to glean information from us, human. But you assumed wrong. We are not mercenaries. We don't do the dirty work of others. Lex Luthor never made a deal with us. We were the ones who approached Lex Luthor with an offer. The Ace of Winchesters in exchange for some forbidden knowledge that he wanted. Quite a good deal for him. That is if he were as capable as we initially expected him to be. Sadly though, he proved to be useless. But that doesn't mean the two of us can't reach a deal that will satisfy us both. He is making an offer for the shotgun instead of just trying to take it from me by force. He is too much of a goody two-shoes for a demon, but as Zatara once said, no demon is a goody two-shoes. Which can only mean 2 things. Either he wants to be friends with me for some reason, which is probably not true since he is a demon and all, or he can't take the gun from me by force and must need me to hand it over to him because of some bullshit rules. That would also explain why he didn't just steal the relic and needed Lex to buy it for him after making a deal with him. Yeah, no. I am going to go on a limb here, but from the hundreds of horror and demon movies I have watched, I think banishing you back to hell is the smarter thing to do here than make a deal with you. I replied before pulling the sleeves off my right hand and revealing a small pentagram-shaped tattoo on my wrist. It was time to exorcise this mother schmucker. Mischief is in their hearts. Give them according to their deeds, and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render them to their desert. Smite them and let them not rise again. Blessed be the Lord. The Lord is my strength and my shield. Thou shalt perish.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.